When the people who raised you die and leave you everything, you grieve. When the people who abandoned you return and demand it all, you fight. Elara Quinn never asked to inherit a billion-dollar empire. She never asked to be orphaned twice. And she definitely never asked for the family who threw her away to come crawling back with their hands out and blood on their fingers. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to a story that's going to grip you from the first sentence and not let go. I'm so glad you're here. Drop a comment below and let me know, where in the world are you watching from? I love connecting with you all, and honestly, your comments make my day. Quick question before we dive in. Have you subscribed yet? If not, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss the twists coming in this one. Okay, let's get into it. The conference room smelled like leather, old money, and betrayal. Elara Quinn sat at the head of the table, her father's chair, her mother's legacy, and felt the weight of 12 pairs of eyes trying to decide if she was prey or predator. She was 22. She'd been CEO of Carter Crown Resorts for exactly 19 days. And she could feel the knives sharpening behind every polite smile. "Miss Quinn," began Sebastian Brand, the CFO with the sharp jaw and sharper instincts, "the board has concerns." Elara met his gaze without flinching. Sebastian was the only one in this room she wasn't sure about yet. He'd been her father's right hand. He'd stood beside her at the funeral. And now he was looking at her like she was a problem that needed solving. "Concerns?" she repeated softly. "About what exactly?" A woman at the far end cleared her throat. "Diane something from acquisitions. About your ability to lead a multinational corporation with no formal experience. About the optics of a child running $1 billion. I'm not a child." The room went silent. Elara leaned forward, her fingers steepled on the mahogany table her father had commissioned 15 years ago. She remembered being 7, sliding across its polished surface in socked feet while her mother laughed. "I'm the majority shareholder," she continued, her voice calm and cold as December rain. "I'm the sole heir. And I'm the person my parents trusted with everything they built. So unless you're planning a coup, I suggest you get comfortable with the current leadership." Sebastian's mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. But before anyone could respond, the double doors burst open. Mia Fisher, the family attorney, stood in the doorway. Her face was pale, her normally perfect composure shattered. "Elara," she breathed. "We need to talk. Now." Elara's stomach dropped. She'd seen that look before, 19 days ago, when Mia had arrived at her apartment at 3 a.m. to tell her that her parents' yacht had exploded off the coast of Sardinia. What happened? Mia's eyes darted to the board members, then back to Elara. "Not here. Your office. It's about your family." "My family is dead," Elara said flatly. "Not the Carters." The air left the room. Elara rose slowly, her heart a drumbeat against her ribs. "Excuse me," she said to the board, her voice steady even as her world tilted. "We'll reconvene tomorrow." She didn't wait for a response. She followed Mia out of the conference room, down the executive hallway with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, and into the corner office that still smelled like her father's cologne. Mia closed the door. "Tell me," Elara said. Mia pulled a folder from her bag, manila, worn at the edges, stuffed with papers. "They found you." "Who?" "Your biological family." The words hit like a fist to the solar plexus. Elara had been 5 years old when she was found wandering near Central Park, alone and sobbing, with nothing but a first name and a hand-me-down coat. No one ever came looking for her. No missing persons report. No frantic parents. Nothing. The Carters had adopted her 2 years later, and she'd buried that abandoned little girl deep. "That's impossible," Elara whispered. "They didn't want me then. Why would they?" "They're claiming rights to your inheritance." The room spun. "What?" Mia opened the folder, her hands shaking. "They filed a petition this morning. They're arguing that as your legal next of kin, they're entitled to a portion of the Carter estate. Their lawyer is..." She paused, her jaw tight. "He's good, Lara. Really good." Elara sank into her father's chair, her chair now, and stared at the papers Mia was spreading across the desk. Legal jargon swam before her eyes, but certain phrases leaped out like accusation. Biological rights, familial claim, undue influence. They abandoned me, Elara said, her voice breaking. They left me on a street corner and never looked back. I know. They have no right. They have a lawyer who thinks otherwise. Mia's expression was grim. And Lara, there's more. More? Mia pulled out a photograph. It was grainy, printed from security footage. It showed 3 people standing on a dock, a woman with dark hair, a broad-shouldered man, and a younger guy, maybe mid-20s. This was taken in Sardinia, Mia said quietly. The day before your parents' yacht exploded. Elara's blood turned to ice. Who are they? Mia pointed to each figure in turn. Anna Wolf. Your birth mother. Christoph Wolf, her husband, not your biological father, but he's listed on the petition. And this one. She tapped the young man. Gail Wolf. Your half-brother. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. They were there. The Italian authorities didn't flag it because they weren't on the yacht. They were just nearby. At the marina. Mia met her eyes. It could be a coincidence. You don't believe that? No, Mia admitted. I don't. Elara stood abruptly, her chair rolling backward. She walked to the window and pressed her forehead against the cool glass, staring down at the city 40 stories below. Her parents were dead. Her birth family, the people who'd thrown her away like garbage, wanted her money. And they'd been in Sardinia the day before the explosion. What do they want? She asked. Everything, Mia said softly. According to the petition, they're asking for 50% of the estate. They're claiming you were estranged due to circumstances beyond their control, and that they deserve. Stop. Elara's voice was sharp. She turned, and Mia flinched at whatever she saw in her face. I don't care what they're claiming. Get me everything. Every record, every piece of evidence about who they are and what they've been doing for the last 17 years. Already on it. And find out who's investigating the yacht explosion. I want to talk to them. Mia nodded. Detective Harvey Cooper. NYPD, working with Italian authorities. I can set up a meeting. Do it. Elara moved back to the desk, her mind racing. The grief that had been a constant ache for 19 days was hardening into something else. Something sharper. They think I'm an easy target, she said quietly. A 22-year-old orphan who'll roll over because she's scared and alone. Mia watched her carefully. Are you? Scared. Elara looked down at the photograph of the 3 strangers who shared her DNA. The woman who'd carried her for 9 months and then left her on a street corner. The man who'd married into her bloodline. The brother she'd never met. Terrified, she admitted. Then she lifted her chin. But my parents didn't raise a coward. They raised a fighter. Mia's expression softened. Victor and Catherine would be proud. They'd be furious, Elara corrected. And so am I. She picked up the photograph, studying the faces of the Wolf family. Anna's expression was hard to read in the grainy image, but there was something in her posture, a tension, a hunger. They'd been in Sardinia. They were demanding 50% of $1 billion fortune. And Elara's parents were dead. Mia, she said slowly, what are the chances this is all connected? The lawyer was quiet for a long moment. I don't believe in coincidences, she finally said. Neither did Elara. Not anymore. She set the photo down and looked at her reflection in the dark window. A young woman in a designer suit, sitting in a corner office she'd inherited through tragedy, facing enemies she'd never known existed. Then let's find out the truth, Elara said, before they come for the rest. But even as she spoke, her phone buzzed. A known number. She picked it up, her heart hammering, and read the message that appeared on screen. We need to talk. It's time you knew what really happened. Your mother. What would you do if the family who abandoned you suddenly wanted back in your life and your bank account? Drop a comment below. And if you're hooked already, I know you are, make sure you're subscribed. This story is just getting started. Elara stared at the text message until the words blurred. We need to talk. It's time you knew what really happened. Your mother. Not Anna. Not your birth mother. Just mother. The audacity made her hands shake. Elara? Mia's voice seemed to come from very far away. What is it? Elara turned the phone around wordlessly. Mia's face hardened. Don't respond. This is a manipulation tactic. They're trying to... I know what they're trying to do. Elara's voice was flat. She set the phone down on the desk, screen up, like it was something poisonous. They want me emotional. Off balance. Easy to control. And? Elara looked at her family attorney, the woman who'd held her hand at the funeral, who'd stayed up 3 nights straight making sure the will was ironclad, who'd been her mother's best friend for 20 years. I won't give them the satisfaction, she said quietly. But her chest ached. Because the truth she couldn't say out loud, was that a small, wounded part of her wanted to respond. Wanted to scream into the void. Why? Why did you leave me? Why did you let me think I was unwanted for 17 years? And worst of all, what really happened? Mia must have seen something in her expression, because her voice softened. Catherine used to say you had her spine and Victor's heart. She meant it as the highest compliment. Elara's throat tightened. She also said I had a terrible poker face. That too. Mia managed a small smile. Then, more seriously, you don't have to do this alone, you know. You have people. Resources. Me. I know. But did she? The board wanted her out. Her birth family wanted her money. And somewhere in the middle of it all, her parents were gone, and she was standing in an office that felt too big, wearing shoes that pinched, playing a role she'd never auditioned for. 22 years old and CEO of an empire. Orphaned twice. Alone. Go home, Mia said gently. Get some sleep. I'll start digging into the Wolf family background, and I'll set up that meeting with Detective Cooper for tomorrow. Elara nodded, but she didn't move. Elara. I'm scared, Mia. The admission came out as a whisper. Not of them. Of what I might find out. What if my parents' deaths weren't an accident? What if her voice cracked? What if I'm next? Mia crossed the room and gripped Elara's shoulders. Then we make sure you're protected. We make sure they don't get within 100 yards of you. And we find out the truth, whatever it is. Promise me something. Anything. If this goes bad. Elara met her eyes. If something happens to me, don't let them win. Don't let them take Carter Crown. My parents built this from nothing. I won't let their legacy become collateral damage in someone else's greed. Nothing is going to happen to you, Mia said fiercely. I won't let it. But they both knew that was a promise she couldn't keep. Elara's apartment was a penthouse in Tribeca, a gift from her parents on her 21st birthday. She tried to refuse it. Mom, Dad, this is insane. But her father had just laughed and said, Sweetheart, when you run an empire, you need a castle. She'd never felt less like royalty than she did walking through the door that night. The space was all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture, decorated in whites and soft grays. Her mother had called it sophisticated. Elara had always thought it looked like a hotel. She kicked off her heels and padded across the cold marble floor to the kitchen, where she poured herself a glass of wine she wouldn't drink. Her phone buzzed again. Not the unknown number this time. Sebastian Brand. Rough first board meeting. You held your ground. Impressive. SB. Despite everything, Elara felt a small flutter in her chest. Sebastian was 30, Harvard MBA, and looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne commercial. He'd started at Carter Crown 5 years ago as a junior analyst and worked his way up through sheer brilliance and what her father had called killer instinct. He was also frustratingly unreadable. At the funeral, he'd stood in the back, stone-faced and silent. At the will reading, he'd shown no surprise when Elara inherited everything. And in the boardroom earlier, he'd been, what? Challenging her? Testing her? Supporting her? She couldn't tell. She typed back, thanks. Still not sure if you're on my side or planning a coup. 3 dots appeared immediately. If I wanted a coup, you'd already be out. I'm efficient like that. A surprised laugh escaped her. Comforting. I aim to comfort. Listen, you free tomorrow night? There's something you should see. Elara hesitated. Was this professional? Personal? A trap? What kind of something? The kind that will help you understand what you're really up against. Trust me. Trust. What a concept. She thought about Sebastian's face in the boardroom, the almost smile when she'd stood up to Diane. The way he'd been the only one to meet her eyes when she'd left. Fine. When and where? I'll pick you up at 8. Dress down. Dress down? For a business meeting? But before she could ask, another message came through. And Elara? Watch your back. You rattled some cages today. The message should have felt threatening. Instead, it felt like a warning from an ally. She set her phone aside and walked to the window, looking out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. Somewhere out there were the answers to questions she'd stopped asking years ago. Who were Anna and Christoph Wolf? Why had they abandoned her? And what had they been doing in Sardinia? The memories came unwanted, as they always did in the quiet moments. She was 5 years old, standing on a corner, and her hand hurt from where someone had been holding it too tight. A woman's voice, Anna's voice, though she didn't remember the words. Just the tone. Cold. Final. Stay here. Don't move. And then, nothing. Just the feeling of being small and lost and utterly alone. Until a police officer had found her, and the system had swallowed her whole. Foster home after foster home. Some kind, some not. Learning to pack her life into a garbage bag. Learning that love was temporary and family was a fairy tale. And then, at 7 years old, she'd met Catherine and Victor Carter. They'd come to the group home on a Tuesday. Catherine had worn a yellow dress, and Victor had smiled like sunshine. They'd sat across from her in the common room, and Catherine had said, "We heard you like to draw." Elara had nodded, suspicious. Adults always wanted something. But Catherine had just pulled out a sketchbook and a box of colored pencils. "Show me." That was it. No prying questions, no forced affection. Just space to be herself. 3 months later, they'd finalized the adoption. Victor had knelt down to her eye level and said, "We know you've been hurt, sweetheart. We know trust is hard. But we're not going anywhere. We're your family now, for as long as you'll have us." "Forever," she'd whispered. "Forever," Catherine had promised. And they'd kept that promise. Through every nightmare, every panic attack, every moment she'd pushed them away because she was terrified they'd leave. They'd stayed. They'd loved her. They'd made her whole. And now they were gone, and the people who'd broken her in the first place wanted to cash in on their legacy. Not happening, Elara thought fiercely. Not ever. Her phone buzzed a third time. The unknown number again. "I know you're angry. I know you have questions. Meet me. Just once. Please. I'm your mother, Elara. I never stop thinking about you." The lie was so blatant it was almost funny. Almost. Elara's fingers moved before her brain could stop them. "You're not my mother. My mother is dead. So is my father. And if you think I'm going to let you profit from their deaths, you don't know me at all." She hit send before she could second-guess it. The response came within seconds. "You're right. I don't know you. But I'd like to. And there are things about your adoption you don't know. Things the Carters never told you. Give me 1 hour. One conversation. And then you can decide what you believe." Elara's stomach churned. Things the Carters never told you. No, that was manipulation. Classic gaslighting. Her parents had been honest with her about everything. Hadn't they? She thought about the will reading, when Mia had revealed that her parents had set up a trust fund for her when she was 8 years old. Not unusual, except they'd never mentioned it. Not once in 14 years. She thought about her father's face whenever she'd asked about her biological family. The way he'd deflect, change the subject, distract her with ice cream or a trip to the beach. She thought about finding her mother crying in the study once, holding a file folder Elara had never seen before or since. Her parents had loved her, protected her, given her everything. They wouldn't have kept secrets. Would they? Here's a question for you, beautiful souls. Can you ever really trust someone who's lied to you before? Even if they claim it was for your own good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing different perspectives on this. And if you're invested in Elara's story, and I know you are, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Things are about to get wild. Elara woke at 3 a.m. to her phone ringing. Not a text this time. A call. A known number. Her heart hammering, she answered. Hello. Silence. Then breathing. Who is this? Elara demanded. A male voice, young and uncertain. Elara Quinn? Who's asking? The pause. It's Gale. Gale Wolf. I'm your brother. The world stopped. Elara sat up in bed, her mind racing. The young man from the security photo. The half-brother she'd never met. How did you get this number? It doesn't matter. Listen, I don't have a lot of time. They can't know I called you. They. Anna and Christoph. Look, I know what they're doing is wrong, okay? I know. But it's complicated and I can't explain over the phone. Then explain in person. I can't. If they find out I contacted you. Are you in danger? Elara asked sharply. Another pause. Longer this time. We all are, Gale said quietly. You need to be careful. The yacht explosion, the timing of the lawsuit, all of it. It's not what it looks like. Then what is it? I can't tell you. Not yet. But Elara. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Don't trust anyone. Not your lawyers, not your board members, not. A sound in the background. A door opening. A woman's voice, sharp and commanding. Who are you talking to? Gale's breathing quickened. I have to go. Just watch your back. Please. The line went dead. Elara sat in the darkness, her pulse thundering in her ears. Don't trust anyone. But if she couldn't trust anyone, she was utterly, completely alone. Detective Harvey Cooper looked like he'd been carved from granite and disappointment. He sat across from Elara in a windowless NYPD conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy, his weathered face unreadable as he spread crime scene photos across the table. I'm going to be straight with you, Miss Quinn, he said, his Boston accent thick. The Italian authorities ruled your parents' deaths accidental. Gas leak, faulty wiring, bad luck. Case closed. Elara's hands clenched in her lap. But you don't believe that. Cooper's eyes met hers, sharp, assessing. What I believe doesn't change the official report. That's not an answer. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. No, it's not. He tapped one of the photos. This is what's left of the yacht. The explosion originated in the engine room. Very thorough. Very convenient. Mia leaned forward. Are you saying it was deliberately set? I'm saying the timing is interesting. Cooper pulled out another document, the security footage still of Anna, Christoph, and Gale at the marina. Your biological family checked into a hotel in Porto Cervo 3 days before the explosion. They rented a small motorboat. And according to harbor records, that boat was taken out the night before your parents died. Elara's stomach turned to ice. Where did they go? The yacht was anchored about 2 miles offshore. It's not hard to connect the dots. But you can't prove anything, Mia said carefully. Not yet. Cooper's gaze shifted back to Elara. Which is why I need to ask, has anyone from the Wolf family tried to contact you? Elara hesitated. She thought about the texts from Anna. The 3 a.m. call from Gale. Don't trust anyone. But Cooper was a detective. He was investigating her parents' murders. Surely she could trust him. Yes, she said finally. Anna's been texting. And my half-brother called last night. He warned me that I was in danger. That nothing is what it looks like. Cooper's expression sharpened. What else did he say? That I shouldn't trust anyone. Not even my own people. She swallowed. He sounded scared. Of what? I don't know. Someone interrupted him before he could finish. Cooper and Mia exchanged a look. Miss Quinn, Cooper said slowly, I need you to be very careful. If the Wolf family is involved in your parents' deaths, you're not just fighting a lawsuit. You're a loose end. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. You think they'd come after me too, Elara whispered. I think you're worth $1 billion to them alive and compliant, and worth nothing dead, unless they can prove inheritance rights first. Cooper leaned back. The fact that they filed that petition so quickly after the deaths? That's not grief. That's strategy. Mia's jaw tightened. We'll get her protection. Private security, the works. But do it today. Cooper gathered his photos. In the meantime, I'm going to keep digging. If there's evidence the explosion was sabotage, I'll find it. But Miss Quinn? If anyone from the Wolf family contacts you again, you call me immediately. Don't engage, don't negotiate, don't try to find out the truth? Elara interrupted. Just hide and hope you solve it first? Cooper's eyes softened slightly. I know you want answers. But wanting them isn't worth your life. Elara was still shaking when she left the precinct. Mia walked beside her, already on the phone with a security company, her voice clipped and professional. But Elara barely heard her. You're a loose end. Her parents hadn't died in an accident. They'd been murdered. And the people who'd killed them were now suing for half of everything they'd built. The audacity was breathtaking. The danger was real. Elara. Mia ended her call. I'm putting a 2-person detail on you, starting tonight. They're the best in the business, former Secret Service. They'll be discreet, but they'll be close. I don't want to live in fear. Then live angry, Mia said fiercely. Use it. Channel it. But don't be stupid. Elara managed a weak smile. Is that your legal advice? That's my advice as someone who loved your parents and refuses to lose you too. The words hit harder than Elara expected. She blinked back sudden tears. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Mia squeezed her hand. We're going to get through this. And we're going to bury the Wolf family so deep they'll never see daylight again. By the time Sebastian picked her up that evening, Elara had cycled through shock, rage, terror, and back to a numb sort of determination. She dressed down as instructed, jeans, a sweater, her hair in a simple ponytail. When she stepped out of her building, Sebastian was leaning against a sleek black car that was decidedly not his usual corporate town car. He straightened when he saw her, and something flickered in his eyes. You look different. Less like a CEO? More like yourself. He opened the passenger door. Come on. We don't have much time. Time for what? You'll see. Elara's new security detail, 2 stone-faced men named Chin and Rivers, were in a car behind them. Sebastian noticed immediately. New friends? He asked as he pulled into traffic. Insurance policy. Someone thinks I might be a target. Sebastian's hands tightened on the wheel. Cooper. You know about the detective? I know your parents' deaths weren't an accident. His voice was flat. And I know the Wolf family was in Sardinia. Elara stared at him. How? Because I've been digging since the day Victor and Catherine died. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. You're not the only one who wants answers, Elara. The use of her first name sent a strange flutter through her chest. In the office, he always called her Miss Quinn. This felt intimate, personal. Where are we going? She asked. Brooklyn. There's someone you need to meet. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest apartment building in Park Slope. Sebastian killed the engine and turned to face her. What I'm about to show you stays between us, he said. Not Mia. Not the board. No one. Why? Because if I'm wrong about you, this could destroy everything. His eyes searched hers. But I don't think I am. Wrong about what? Sebastian didn't answer. He just got out of the car and waited for her to follow. Chen and Rivers stayed in their vehicle, watching. Elara's heart hammered as she followed Sebastian into the building and up 3 flights of stairs. He stopped at apartment 3C and knocked, 3 quick raps, then 2 slow ones. The code. The door opened, and Elara came face to face with her half-brother. Gale Wolf was younger than she'd expected, maybe 24, with dark hair and eyes that looked haunted. He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. You actually brought her, he breathed. Sebastian stepped inside, pulling Elara with him. She deserves to know the truth. The truth about what? Elara demanded, her pulse racing. She looked between Sebastian and Gale. How do you two know each other? He found me a week ago, Gale said. Started asking questions about Anna and Christoph, about Sardinia, about... He swallowed. About you. And you just answered him? I answered because I'm sick of the lies. Gale's voice cracked. Because I've been watching this plan unfold for months and I can't I can't be part of it anymore. What plan? Elara's voice was barely a whisper. Gail looked at Sebastian, who nodded. They've been planning this for 3 years, Gail said. Ever since they found out you'd been adopted by the Carters. They researched everything, the company, the assets, Victor and Catherine's routines. Christoph said it was just about getting you back, about reuniting the family. But Anna. His face twisted. Anna only cared about the money. Elara felt like the floor was dropping out from under her. 3 years. They knew where you were the whole time, Gail continued. They just waited for the right moment to make contact. And then when Victor and Catherine announced they were taking that yacht trip for their anniversary. No, Elara whispered. Christoph has a background in marine engineering, Gail said quietly. He knows boats. Knows engines. Knows exactly how to make an explosion look like an accident. The room spun. You're saying they killed my parents? Elara's voice was hollow. For money? I'm saying Christoph was on that yacht the night before it exploded. Gail pulled out his phone and showed her a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Christoph Wolff climbing aboard the Carter yacht in the dark. I took this because I was scared. Because I knew something was wrong. But I didn't think they'd actually. He couldn't finish. Elara couldn't breathe. Sebastian's hand found hers, steady and warm. This is enough for Cooper to reopen the investigation. With this photo and Gail's testimony. They'll kill me, Gail interrupted. The second they find out I talked, I'm dead. Christoph doesn't leave loose ends. Then we protect you, Sebastian said. We get you into witness protection. There's more. Gail's voice dropped. The lawsuit isn't the endgame. It's a distraction. They're planning something else. Something bigger. Elara found her voice. What? I don't know all the details. But I heard Anna on the phone last week, talking about Phase 2. Something about the company itself. About a hostile takeover, or, he shook his head. I couldn't hear everything. But Elara, they're not just coming for your inheritance. They're coming for Carter Crown. The words hit like a physical blow. Elara pulled her hand from Sebastian's and walked to the window, staring out at the Brooklyn skyline. Her mind was racing, pieces clicking into place. The board's sudden doubts about her leadership. The lawsuit demanding 50%. The yacht explosion. It wasn't just about money. It was about control. If Anna and Christoph could prove biological rights to the inheritance, and if they could undermine Elara's position as CEO, they wouldn't just get half the fortune. They'd get the whole empire. They want me to fail, she said quietly. They want the board to lose confidence, want me to crumble under the pressure. And then they swoop in, claim they're the stable family influence, and take over. Sebastian moved to stand beside her. That's my theory too. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Why are you helping me? His jaw tightened. Because Victor Carter gave me a chance when no one else would. I was a kid from nowhere with student debt and a chip on my shoulder, and he saw something in me. Made me CFO before I was 30. His voice roughened. He and Catherine were good people. And what happened to them was murder. I can't let that stand. The rawness in his voice did something to Elara's carefully controlled composure. What do we do? She whispered. Sebastian turned to face her fully, and suddenly he was very close. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the heat of him. We fight, he said quietly. We use Gail's testimony, we give Cooper everything we have, and we make sure Anna and Christoph Wolff spend the rest of their lives in prison. And Carter Crown? We save it. His hand came up to cup her cheek, the gesture so unexpected that Elara gasped. Together. The moment stretched between them, electric and terrifying. Then Gail cleared his throat. Guys? We should probably move. If Anna figures out I'm gone. Sebastian stepped back, professional mask sliding into place. But Elara's cheeks still burned where he touched her. Right. Sebastian pulled out his phone. I'll call Cooper, set up a meeting. Gail, you'll need to come with us, give a full statement. And then what? Gail asked. Where do I go? Somewhere safe, Elara said. She looked at her half-brother. This stranger who shared her blood, who just upended her entire world. You did the right thing. Calling me. Telling us the truth. I won't let them hurt you for it. Gail's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. For all of it. For what they did, for what I didn't stop for. You're stopping it now, Elara interrupted. That's what matters. Real talk, everyone. Would you risk everything to do the right thing? Would you betray your own family if you knew they'd committed murder? Gail just became the most crucial player in this game, and I want to know what you think of him. Careful. Drop your comments below. And seriously, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button now. They were halfway back to Manhattan when Elara's phone rang. A known number. Her blood ran cold. Sebastian glanced at her. Don't answer. But something made her pick up. Hello. A woman's voice. Not Anna. Diane from the board. Miss Quinn, I'm so sorry to call so late, but there's been an incident at the office. Elara's stomach dropped. What kind of incident? A break-in. Your office was ransacked. The police are here, but... Diane's voice shook. They took your father's files. All of them. Everything about the company's finances, the offshore accounts, the succession plans. Everything. Elara's hand tightened on the phone. When? Sometime in the last 2 hours. Security footage was wiped. 2 hours ago. Right when she'd been with Gail. Right when Anna and Christoph would have known their son was missing. This wasn't random, Elara said. No, Diane agreed quietly. I don't think it was. Elara ended the call and looked at Sebastian. They know, she said. They know Gail talked. And now they're making their move. Sebastian's expression turned deadly. Then we make ours first. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Cooper? It's Sebastian Brand. We have a witness ready to testify about the Carter murders. And we need protection. Now. As he talked, Elara stared out the window at the city lights blurring past. The game had changed. The Wolf family wasn't just circling anymore. They were attacking. And Elara had a choice to make: hide and hope the law protected her, or step into the ring and fight back with everything she had. She thought about her parents. About the empire they'd built. About the love they'd given a broken little girl. And she made her decision. Sebastian, she said quietly. He covered the phone. Yeah. Tomorrow, I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Elara. I'm done playing defense. Her voice was steel. It's time they learned who they're really dealing with. Sebastian's eyes gleamed with something that might have been pride. Or desire. Or both. There's the show I was waiting for, he murmured. And despite everything, the danger, the grief, the chaos, Elara felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in weeks. And the thrill of the fight to come. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. Elara arrived at 7. She'd spent the night at Sebastian's insistence, not at his place, but at a corporate apartment Carter Crown kept for VIP guests. Blake and Rivers stood guard outside while she'd paced the floors until dawn, rehearsing what she was going to say, how she was going to hold her ground. How she was going to prove she wasn't just Victor and Catherine's adopted daughter. She was their successor. Mia met her in the lobby with coffee and a grim expression. Cooper has Gail in protective custody. He's giving his full statement this morning. And the break-in? Forensics is going through your office now. They're dusting for prints, checking for digital bugs, the works. Mia's jaw tightened. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for. This wasn't some random smash and grab. It was the Wolf family sending a message. Elara sipped her coffee, bitter and black. They want me to know they can get to me anywhere. Well, they've made a critical mistake. What's that? Mia's smile was sharp as a blade. They've pissed you off. The boardroom filled slowly. Diane arrived first, her usual composed expression cracked with worry. Then came the others, 12 men and women who controlled the future of Carter Crown, who'd known Elara since she was a teenager attending company galas in borrowed dresses. They looked at her differently now. Like she was a liability. Sebastian was the last to enter. He'd gone home to change, and now he wore a charcoal suit that made him look like he could buy and sell kingdoms before lunch. His eyes found Elara's across the room, and something unspoken passed between them. "I got your back." Elara stood at the head of the table, her father's position, and waited for silence. "Thank you for coming on short notice," she began. Her voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "I know the last few weeks have been turbulent. My parents' deaths, the transition of leadership, and now the lawsuit from my biological family. I'm aware that some of you have doubts about my ability to lead this company." No one spoke, but several people had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I'm not here to make excuses or ask for sympathy," Elara continued. "I'm here to tell you what's really happening. And then I'm going to give you a choice." She nodded to Sebastian, who pulled up a presentation on the screen behind her. The first slide was the security photo of Anna, Christophe, and Gail in Sardinia. "This is my biological family," Elara said. "The day before my parents were killed." Murmurs rippled through the room. The next slide showed Christophe boarding the yacht. "This is Christophe Wolff accessing the Carter yacht 12 hours before the explosion." The murmurs turned to shocked silence. "And this," Elara said as Sebastian pulled up the last slide, "a timeline of events, is a 3-year plan to infiltrate Carter Crown, eliminate the existing leadership, and claim control through inheritance rights and a hostile takeover." Diane went pale. "Elara, are you saying?" "I'm saying my parents were murdered." Elara's voice didn't waver. "I'm saying the lawsuit is a smokescreen. And I'm saying that if we don't act now, the Wolff family will tear this company apart from the inside." The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. Demands for proof. Accusations of paranoia. But Elara stood her ground, answering each one with facts, with evidence, with the cold certainty that she was right. Finally, Diane raised her hand for silence. "What do you propose we do?" she asked. Elara took a breath. This was it. The moment that would define her leadership. "First, we cooperate fully with Detective Cooper's investigation. We provide any resources he needs to prove that the yacht explosion was sabotage." Nods around the table. "Second, we countersue the Wolff family for wrongful death, fraud, and conspiracy. We don't just defend against their claim, we go on the offense." More nods, more energized now. "And third," Elara met each board member's eyes in turn. "We lock down this company. Every access point, every file, every executive decision goes through a secure protocol. We assume we've been compromised and we act accordingly." "That's a massive undertaking," someone objected. "The cost alone is nothing compared to what we'll lose if they succeed." Elara's voice was steel. "My parents built Carter Crown from a single boutique hotel to a global empire. I will not let their legacy become collateral damage in someone else's greed. So I'm asking you now, are you with me?" The silence stretched. Then Sebastian stood. "I'm in." Diane was next. "So am I." One by one, the board members rose. All 12. United. And for the first time since the funeral, Elara felt like she could breathe. After the meeting, Sebastian caught her in the hallway. "That was impressive," he said quietly. "That was terrifying," Elara corrected. But she was smiling. "You're a natural leader, you know that?" His hand brushed her arm, the touch brief but electric. "Victor always said you had it in you. Now everyone else sees it too." Elara's chest tightened. "I wish he were here to see it." "I think he is." Sebastian's voice was soft. "And I think he's proud as hell." The moment hung between them, charged with something Elara couldn't quite name. The beginning of something that felt dangerous and inevitable all at once. "Sebastian." Her phone buzzed. "Mia. Cooper wants to see you." He found something. Detective Cooper's office was organized chaos, files stacked on every surface, a whiteboard covered in scrawled notes and red string connecting photos like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. In the center of it all was a photograph of Anna Wolff. "She's not who she says she is," Cooper said without preamble. Elara blinked. "What?" Cooper pulled up a file on his computer. "Anna Wolff, née Kingsley. Born in Ohio, dropped out of high school, married Christophe 12 years ago. That's the official story. And the unofficial one?" Anna Kingsley didn't exist before 18 years ago. Cooper turned the screen so Elara could see. No birth certificate, no school records, no social security number prior to 2005. She's a ghost. Mia leaned forward. A false identity? Almost certainly. Which means whoever she really is, she went to a lot of trouble to disappear. Cooper pulled out another file. And here's where it gets interesting. I ran facial recognition against unsolved cases from the early 2000s. And I got a hit. He laid a grainy photo on the desk. A woman, younger, different hair color, but unmistakably Anna. Standing beside a man in handcuffs. The headline read, "Securities Fraud Ring Busted, Key Players Still at Large." Elara's blood turned to ice. She's a criminal. She was allegedly part of a team that defrauded investors out of $30 million. Her partner went to prison. She disappeared. Cooper's eyes were hard. Elara, your birth mother isn't just a greedy opportunist. She's a career con artist. And you're her biggest score yet. The room spun. Everything Elara thought she knew, the abandoned child, the desperate family, even the calculated greed, it was all just another layer of deception. Does she know I found this? Elara asked. Not yet. But I'm going to arrest her and Christoph as soon as I have enough evidence to make it stick. The yacht photo Gail provided is good, but I need more. I need the forensics from the boat engine. I need financial records showing they were in debt. How much time? Sebastian interrupted. Cooper grimaced. 48 hours. Maybe less. And in the meantime? Elara's voice was hollow. In the meantime, you stay alert. Stay protected. And stay away from the Wolf family, no matter what they offer. Elara was halfway to her car when a voice stopped her cold. Elara. She turned. Anna Wolf stood 20 feet away, flanked by two expensive-looking lawyers. She was dressed like money, designer suit, perfect hair, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked nothing like a con artist. She looked like a mother. Stay away from me, Elara said, her hand instinctively reaching for her phone. Please. Just 5 minutes. Anna took a step closer. I know what you must think. I know Gail talked to you. He told me the truth. That you've been planning this for years. That you killed my parents. Anna's expression crumpled. No. God no. Elara, whatever Gail told you, he's confused. He's been manipulated by. Don't. Elara's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare try to gaslight me. I know who you are. I know about the fraud case in 2005. I know you're not even Anna Wolf. For just a second, Anna's mask slipped. Something cold and calculating flashed in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by wounded innocence. You've been lied to, Anna said softly. About me. About your adoption. About what really happened the night I left you. Despite herself, Elara hesitated. What are you talking about? Anna glanced at her lawyers, then back at Elara. The Carters didn't just adopt you out of the goodness of their hearts. They paid me $200,000 to disappear and never contact you again. The words hit like a slap. That's a lie, Elara whispered. It's the truth. They wanted a child and you were convenient. Young enough to forget your past, old enough to not need constant care. I was desperate, broke, and they offered me a way out. Anna's voice shook. I've regretted it every day since. Stop. Elara's vision blurred with tears. Just stop. I have the bank records. The contract they made me sign. All of it. Anna pulled an envelope from her purse. I'm not asking for your money, Elara. I'm asking for a chance to be your mother. The way I should have been all along. Elara stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Every instinct screamed that this was manipulation. That Anna was lying, twisting the truth, playing on her deepest wounds. But what if she wasn't? What if the parents Elara had loved so completely had started their family with a transaction? What if she'd never been chosen out of love, but out of convenience? Don't take it, Sebastian said from behind her. Elara spun. She hadn't heard him approach. Blake and Rivers flanked him, hands on their weapons. Sebastian's eyes were locked on Anna. Whatever you're selling, she's not buying. Anna's smile turned brittle. And who are you? The guard dog? I'm the CFO. And I was there when Victor and Catherine talked about adopting Elara. Sebastian moved to stand beside Elara, close enough that their shoulders touched. They didn't buy her. They loved her. From the very first moment. You can't possibly know. I know that they tried for 10 years to have children naturally. I know that they fostered 6 kids before Elara, hoping to find the right fit. I know that when they met her, Catherine cried for 3 hours because she said it felt like meeting her daughter. Sebastian's voice was hard. So whatever story you're selling, whatever fake documents you've fabricated, take them and leave. Anna's mask finally cracked. You're going to regret this, she hissed. All of you. I offered you the easy way. But if you want war, Elara, you'll get one. Bring it, Elara said quietly. Anna turned and stalked away, her lawyers scrambling to follow. The second she was gone, Elara's legs nearly gave out. Sebastian caught her, his arms strong and steady around her waist. I've got you, he murmured. You're okay. But she wasn't. Because even though she knew Anna was lying, even though she trusted her parents' love, a tiny, wounded part of her wondered. Question for you all. When someone you love keeps a secret, even if it's to protect you, does that change the love itself? Or is love bigger than the secrets we keep? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're as hooked on this story as I think you are, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because we're about to enter the wildest part of this journey. That night, Elara couldn't sleep. She lay in the corporate apartment, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying Anna's words over and over. They paid me $200,000. It couldn't be true, could it? At 2 a.m., she gave up and went to the living room, where Sebastian was reviewing financial reports on his laptop. He looked up when she entered. Can't sleep? Can't turn my brain off. She curled into the opposite end of the couch. Do you think she was telling the truth? About my parents paying her? Sebastian closed the laptop and turned to face her fully. Do you want the diplomatic answer or the honest one? Honest. It's possible. At her sharp intake of breath, he continued, private adoptions sometimes involve financial compensation. Medical expenses, legal fees, even living costs during pregnancy. None of that means you were bought, Elara. It means the process was handled properly. But $200,000 is a lot for a standard adoption, yes. But it's also pocket change for the Carters. Sebastian's voice was gentle. If they did pay Anna, and that's a big if, it was probably to make sure she was taken care of and wouldn't come back. Not because they didn't love you. Elara hugged her knees to her chest. I keep thinking about all the times I asked about my birth family. About why I was abandoned. And they always changed the subject. Maybe because they didn't want you to know your mother sold you. The words were brutal, but Elara needed brutal. Needed truth. Or maybe, Sebastian added quietly, because they knew nothing they said would make it hurt less. So they just loved you instead. Elara's eyes filled with tears. I miss them so much. I know. And I hate that Anna's making me doubt them. Then don't let her. Sebastian moved closer, his hand finding hers in the darkness. Your parents were good people, Elara. I knew them for 5 years, watched them with you, saw how they lit up every time you walked into a room. That kind of love doesn't lie. His thumb traced circles on her palm, the touch sending electricity up her arm. Thank you, she whispered, for being here. For believing in me when I'm not sure I believe in myself. You're stronger than you think. Sebastian's free hand came up to cup her face, tilting it toward him. You stood up to a boardroom of skeptics. You're fighting a murder conspiracy. You're protecting a company and a legacy while grieving people you loved. That's not weakness, Elara. That's courage. They were so close now. Close enough that Elara could feel his breath on her lips. Close enough to see her own confusion and want reflected in his eyes. Sebastian, she breathed. Tell me to stop, he murmured. Tell me this is a bad idea, and I'll walk away. But she couldn't. Because in a world that had become chaos and danger and lies, Sebastian felt like the only solid ground. So instead of telling him to stop, Elara closed the distance. The kiss was soft at first. Tentative. A question. Then Sebastian's hands slid into her hair, and Elara's arms wrapped around his neck, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and flying all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. That was... He trailed off. A terrible idea? Elara supplied. The best terrible idea I've ever had. His smile was crooked. Devastating. But we should probably talk about... Elara's phone rang. Cooper. At 2 a.m. She answered on the first ring. What happened? Gail's gone. Cooper's voice was tight. Someone got to him. The safe house was breached an hour ago. 2 officers down and Gail, he's missing. The world stopped. How? Elara demanded. We're still piecing it together. But Elara, Cooper paused. Whoever took him knew exactly where he was. Which means someone on my team talked. Or someone was listening to our conversations. Elara's gaze snapped to Sebastian, who'd gone rigid. You think I'm bugged? She whispered. I think you need to assume you are. Don't trust any device, any room, any person you haven't personally vetted. Cooper's voice was grim. I'm sorry, Elara. This just became a different kind of war. The call ended. Elara sat frozen, her mind racing. If she was being surveilled, then Anna and Christoph had heard everything. The board meeting. The plan with Cooper. Gail's testimony. They knew she was coming for them. And now they had her half-brother, the only witness who could put them away for murder. We need to move, Sebastian said, already pulling out his phone. If they breached Cooper's safe house, they know about this apartment too. Where do we go? Sebastian's jaw tightened. Somewhere they won't think to look. 20 minutes later, Elara found herself in a modest brownstone in Queens. This is your place? She asked as Sebastian unlocked the door. My grandmother's, technically. She left it to me when she died. He ushered her inside, Blake and Rivers doing a sweep before taking up positions outside. I kept it because hotels get lonely. And because I like having somewhere that's just mine. The interior was warm. Lived in. Books stacked on every surface, photos on the walls, a kit Blake that actually looked used. It was the most human thing Elara had ever seen Sebastian own. I didn't know you were close with your grandmother, she said. She raised me after my parents died. Sebastian's voice was carefully neutral. I was 8. Car accident. She took me in, worked 2 jobs to put me through school, never complained once. Elara's heart cracked. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But his eyes were distant. The point is, I know what you're going through. The grief. The pressure. The feeling that you have to be strong for everyone else when all you want to do is fall apart. How did you survive it? I found something worth fighting for. He looked at her. Your father gave me that. A purpose. A future. And now I'm fighting for him. For Catherine. And for you. The confession hung in the air between them. Elara stepped closer. This thing between us is complicated, Sebastian finished. You're my boss. We're in the middle of a crisis. And I'm probably the last person you should be trusting right now. And yet you're the only person I trust. His eyes darkened. Elara. I know the timing is terrible. I know we have 1,000 reasons to not do this. She reached up to touch his face. But I also know that life is short and uncertain, and the only thing I'm sure of right now is that when I'm with you, I feel less alone. Sebastian caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. You're not alone. Not anymore. And then he was kissing her again, deeper this time, with an urgency that spoke of danger and desire and the desperate need to feel something good in the middle of so much darkness. They stumbled toward the bedroom, hands fumbling with buttons and zippers, mouths never breaking apart. This was reckless. This was dangerous. This was exactly what Elara needed. Elara woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Sebastian's arm draped across her waist. For exactly 3 seconds, she felt peaceful. Then reality crashed back. Her parents were dead. Gail was missing. Anna and Christoph were closing in. And she'd just slept with her CFO in the middle of the biggest crisis of her life. Sebastian stirred beside her, his eyes opening to find hers already watching him. "Morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Morning." Elara's throat was tight. "We should probably talk about how spectacular that was?" A crooked smile. "Or how complicated this just became?" "Both." Sebastian propped himself up on one elbow, his expression turning serious. "I don't regret last night. But I also don't want you to think I took advantage when you were vulnerable." "You didn't." Elara touched his face. "I wanted this. Wanted you. I still do. Even though I'm technically your employee? Even though we're in the middle of a war." She kissed him softly. "We'll figure out the rest later. If there is a later." "There will be." Sebastian's voice was fierce. "I promise you, Elara. We're going to survive this." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Mia, turn on the news. Now." The news anchor's face was grave as she stood outside Carter Crown's headquarters. In a shocking development, sources close to the investigation say that 22-year-old CEO Elara Quinn is now a person of interest in the suspicious deaths of her adoptive parents, Victor and Catherine Carter. Elara's blood turned to ice. "What?" she breathed. The screen cut to a press conference. Detective Cooper stood at a podium, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "We've received evidence suggesting that Miss Quinn may have had motive and opportunity to sabotage her parents' yacht," Cooper said, his voice flat. "While she is not currently under arrest, we are asking her to come in for questioning." "This is insane," Sebastian snarled. "Cooper knows she's innocent. We just talked to him yesterday about Gail." "Someone got to him," Elara whispered. "Or he's being forced to do this." The anchor continued. Adding to the controversy, anonymous sources have leaked what they claim are text messages between Miss Quinn and an unknown contact, discussing removing obstacles and securing the inheritance. The screen showed screenshots. Messages that looked like they'd come from Elara's phone. "They're getting suspicious. We need to move up the timeline." "What about your parents?" "They won't be a problem much longer." Elara's stomach lurched. "Those aren't real. I never sent those." "They're fabricated," Sebastian agreed. "But they look convincing enough to create doubt." His phone rang. "Diane." He answered on speaker. "Tell me you don't believe this." "Of course not." But Diane's voice was strained. "But Sebastian, the board is in emergency session. Half of them are calling for Elara's immediate resignation. The other half want to wait for the investigation, but the PR damage alone." "How long do we have?" Elara asked. Pause. "The shareholders' meeting is in 3 days. If you're still under suspicion then, they'll vote you out." "I'm sorry, Elara. I tried to hold them off, but..." "It's okay." Elara's voice was surprisingly steady. "I understand." She ended the call and stood, wrapping the sheet around herself as she walked to the window. Manhattan sprawled below, indifferent to her destruction. "They're framing me," she said quietly. "First they kill my parents. Then they try to take the company. And when that doesn't work fast enough, they make me look like the murderer." Sebastian came to stand behind her, his hands on her shoulders. "We prove the texts are fake. We find Gale and get his testimony on record. We're running out of time." Elara turned to face him. "In 3 days I lose everything. And Anna and Christoph walk away with Carter Crown. Not if we expose them first." "How?" "Cooper's been compromised or coerced. Gale's missing. The evidence was stolen from my office." Her voice cracked. "Sebastian, I don't know how to fight ghosts. Then we stop fighting their game and start playing our own." Elara met his eyes. "What are you thinking?" Sebastian's expression was calculating. "Dangerous. I'm thinking we give them exactly what they want. Here's a question for all of you watching. When you're backed into a corner with no good options, do you surrender or do you double down? When everything's against you, what do you do? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear how you'd handle this level of betrayal. And if you haven't subscribed, please do it now. You're going to want to see how Elara fights back. 2 hours later, Elara walked into NYPD headquarters with her head high and her lawyer by her side. Not Mia. Someone else. Someone Anna and Christoph wouldn't expect. Nathan Byrne, the most ruthless defense attorney in New York, a man who'd never lost a case and had a reputation for destroying prosecutors on cross-examination. He was also Victor Carter's college roommate. "Miss Quinn," Cooper said as she entered the interrogation room. He looked exhausted, defeated. "Thank you for coming in voluntarily." "Let's skip the pleasantries, detective." Nathan set his briefcase on the table with a sharp click. "You've accused my client of murdering her parents based on fabricated evidence. So either charge her or end this farce." Cooper's jaw tightened. He slid a folder across the table. These text messages were recovered from a burner phone registered to an LLC that Miss Quinn created 6 months ago. Elara opened the folder. Sure enough, there was documentation. Corporate filings for EQ Holdings. Bank statements showing payments to various untraceable accounts. It was thorough. It was convincing. It was completely fake. "I didn't create this company," Elara said calmly. "And I didn't send those texts." "Can you prove that? Can you prove she did?" Nathan countered. "Because last I checked, accusations require evidence. Real evidence, not convenient fabrications that appeared overnight." Cooper leaned back. "Miss Quinn, I want to believe you. But the pressure from the DA's office, the media attention, He stopped himself. "I need you to give me something. Anything that proves you're not involved." Elara studied him. Really looked at him. He was scared. No, he was being threatened. "Someone got to you," she said quietly. "Someone told you to build a case against me or else." Cooper's expression flickered. Just for a second. But it was enough. "This interview is over," Nathan said, standing. "Unless you're charging my client." "Wait." Cooper pulled out another folder. This one he slid across the table face down. "You should see this before you go." Elara opened it, and her world shattered. It was a contract. Dated 20 years ago. Signed by Victor and Catherine Carter on one side, and Anna Wolf on the other. Private adoption agreement. Payment, $200,000. Terms: birth mother relinquishes all parental rights in perpetuity. No contact with minor child. Complete severance of biological relationship. Anna had been telling the truth. The Carters had paid for her. "No," Elara whispered. Nathan grabbed the document, scanning it quickly. "This doesn't prove anything except that the adoption was handled through proper legal channels. They bought me." Elara's voice was hollow. Like I was merchandise." "That's not what this means," Nathan said firmly. "Private adoptions often involve financial compensation. It doesn't mean." But Elara wasn't listening. She was remembering every time she'd asked about her birth family. Every deflection, every change of subject. Her father's guilty expression. Her mother's tears. They'd known. They'd known she'd been sold, and they'd never told her. "Elara." Cooper's voice was surprisingly gentle. "For what it's worth, I knew Victor and Catherine. They were good people. Whatever they paid, it wasn't about buying a child. It was about protecting you from someone who would have used you as a bargaining chip your whole life." "How did you get this?" Nathan demanded. Cooper's expression went carefully blank. "It was anonymously delivered to the precinct this morning, along with a note saying there were more secrets the Carters kept from their daughter." "More secrets? What else?" Elara asked. "I don't know. But whoever's leaking this information wants you destabilized. They want you doubting everyone and everything." Cooper met her eyes. "Don't give them that power." But it was too late. Because Elara was already drowning in doubt. She made it to Nathan's car before she broke. Great, gasping sobs that tore through her chest like shrapnel. Sebastian, who'd been waiting outside, climbed into the back seat and pulled her into his arms. "They lied to me," she choked out. "For 15 years, they lied." "They protected you," Sebastian countered. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Elara pulled back to look at him. "If they could lie about that, what else did they hide? What else don't I know?" Sebastian's expression was anguished. "Elara. And you." She turned on him, anger and hurt boiling over. "You said you were there when they talked about adopting me. You said they loved me from the first moment. But you never mentioned that they paid Anna to disappear." "Because I didn't know," Sebastian said carefully. I was 23 years old when I started at Carter Crown. I wasn't privy to their personal business from before I even worked there. But you knew something. I can see it in your face. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. I knew they were protective of you in a way that seemed intense, he finally admitted. I knew there were files in Victor's personal safe that he never let anyone access. And I knew that once, about 2 years ago, your mother got a phone call that made her go white. She left work in the middle of the day and didn't come back for a week. Elara's breath caught. What was the call? I don't know. But when she came back, she made Victor hire a private security team to monitor your apartment. You never knew because they were that discreet. Someone was threatening me? Elara's mind raced. 2 years ago. That's around when Anna said they started planning this. So maybe the Carters knew. Nathan interjected from the front seat. Maybe they knew your biological family was circling and they were trying to protect you. By keeping me in the dark? Elara's voice broke. By letting me think I was abandoned when I was actually sold? By giving you a childhood without that burden, Sebastian said softly. By letting you be their daughter, not a transaction. The words hit like a physical blow. Because he was right. If Elara had known the truth, that Anna had given her up for money, it would have poisoned everything. Every moment of happiness, every milestone, every "I love you" would have been shadowed by the knowledge that she'd been bought. Her parents had carried that weight so she wouldn't have to. I hate this, Elara whispered. I hate that they're gone and I can't ask them why. I hate that Anna's using their secrets to destroy me. I hate that I don't know who to trust anymore. Sebastian cupped her face in his hands. Trust me. I know I'm asking a lot, and I know you're scared. But Elara, I swear on everything I have, I am on your side. Always. She searched his eyes, looking for the lie. She found only truth. Okay, she breathed. Okay. They went back to Sebastian's grandmother's house to regroup. Blake and Rivers had swept the place 3 times. No bugs, no surveillance. It was as safe as anywhere could be. Elara sat at the coffee table with a cup of tea she wasn't drinking while Nathan and Sebastian worked through strategy. The fake texts won't hold up in court, Nathan was saying. Any decent forensic analyst will prove they were created post hoc. But in the court of public opinion, she's already guilty, Sebastian finished grimly. Which is the whole point. They don't need to convict her legally. They just need to destroy her reputation enough that the board and shareholders have no choice but to vote her out. So we need to shift the narrative, Nathan said. We need to expose the Wolf family before the shareholders' meeting. How? Elara asked. Gail is missing. Cooper's been compromised. All the evidence from my office was stolen. Not all of it. Sebastian pulled out a USB drive from his pocket. Before the break-in, I backed up every file from your father's computer, including the ones he thought were deleted. Elara sat up straight. What's on it? I don't know yet. It's encrypted, Victor-level encryption. I've been trying to crack it for 2 weeks. Sebastian plugged the drive into his laptop. But maybe now that we know what we're looking for. He typed rapidly, running decryption programs, trying different password combinations. Try my birthday, Elara suggested. Sebastian did. Nothing. The company's founding date. Nothing. Catherine's birthday. Their anniversary. The address of the first hotel. Nothing, nothing, nothing. What was important to Victor? Nathan mused. What would he use as an unbreakable password? Elara thought about her father. His obsessions, his loves. Try the Elara Quinn Carter, she said suddenly. My full name. The one they gave me when the adoption was finalized. Sebastian typed it in. The files unlocked. Oh my God, he breathed. The screen filled with folders. Dozens of them. All labeled with dates going back 20 years. Sebastian opened the most recent one. It was surveillance footage. Financial records. Investigator reports. All about Anna and Christoph Wolf. Your father was tracking them, Sebastian said slowly. For years. He knew they were dangerous, knew they were planning something, and he was gathering evidence. Elara leaned over his shoulder, reading through the files with growing horror. Anna's real name was Natalie Harker. She'd been involved in 3 separate fraud schemes before reinventing herself as Anna Wolf. Christoph had a sealed juvenile record for arson and assault. Together, they'd scammed investors, charities, even a church group. They were career criminals. And they'd been hunting Elara since she turned 18. A woman who's lost everything and has nothing left to lose, Elara interrupted. I'm getting Gail back. I'm getting the testimony we need. And I'm ending this. Sebastian stood. Then I'm coming with you. Sebastian. Not up for debate. His jaw was set. You want to walk into danger? Fine. But you're not doing it alone. Elara looked at him. This man who'd gone from her father's protege to her CFO, what? Her lover? Her ally? Her only anchor in a storm? All of it, she realized. All of it and more. Okay, she said softly. Together. Let me ask you something. Would you risk everything, your safety, your company, your life, to save someone you barely know? Or is there a point where self-preservation has to win? Tell me in the comments what you would do in Elara's position. And please subscribe if you haven't yet. We're heading into the most dangerous part of this story, and you won't want to miss a single second. They left at dawn. Blake and Rivers drove while Elara and Sebastian sat in the back, going over the plan for the 100th time. We get in, we confirm Gail is there, we get out and call in backup, Sebastian recited. Right. We do not engage with Anna or Christoph directly. Right. And if anything goes wrong, it won't. Elara squeezed his hand. We're going to get him, get the testimony on record, and end this. But as they drove deeper into the Catskills, into dense forest and isolated back roads, Elara's confidence wavered. What if this was a trap? What if Gail was already dead? What if she was walking into exactly the situation Anna and Christoph wanted? The safe house appeared suddenly, a small cabin tucked into the trees, barely visible from the road. One car parked outside. Christoph's rental. They're here, Blake confirmed, checking his weapon. We should wait for backup, Rivers said. But Elara was already getting out of the car. Elara! Sebastian grabbed her arm. What are you doing? Ending this. She pulled free. Stay here. If I'm not out in 10 minutes, call Cooper. Absolutely not. I'm not letting you. But Elara was already walking toward the cabin, her heart hammering, her father's words echoing in her head. Fight for what's yours. She reached the door, raised her hand to knock, and heard a scream from inside. Gail. Elara didn't think. She tried the handle, unlocked, and burst through. The scene inside stopped her cold. Gail was tied to a chair, blood streaming from his nose. Christoph stood over him with a tire iron. And Anna sat in the corner, watching with dead eyes. They all turned when Elara entered. Well, Anna said softly. Look who came to play. Christoph smiled. We were hoping you would. And Elara realized, too late, that she'd made a terrible mistake. This wasn't a rescue. It was an ambush. Christoph moved with terrifying speed. Before Elara could react, he had her arm twisted behind her back, the tire iron pressed against her throat. Don't, he said conversationally, as Sebastian appeared in the doorway with Blake and Rivers behind him. Unless you want to see what her head looks like caved in. Sebastian froze, his face going white. Blake and Rivers had their weapons drawn, but there was no clear shot. Christoph was using Elara as a shield. Put the guns down, Christoph ordered. Slowly. Or she dies right here, and you can explain to the police how you broke into our property and got your boss killed. Do it, Elara gasped, the iron cutting off her air. Blake and Rivers looked at Sebastian, who nodded tightly. They lowered their weapons. Good. Christoph's grip tightened. Now kick them over here. All of you. Phones too. They complied. Anna collected everything with practiced efficiency, her expression bored. Like this was routine. Like she'd done this before. She probably had. Tie them up, Anna instructed, tossing rope to Christoph. The bodyguards first. Within minutes, Blake and Rivers were bound and gagged, propped against the wall. Then Sebastian, fighting every second until Christoph cracked him across the jaw with the tire iron. No! Elara screamed as Sebastian went down, blood pouring from his mouth. "Shut up," Anna said mildly. She grabbed Elara by the hair and shoved her into a chair next to Gale. "You're in no position to make demands, sweetheart." Gale looked at Elara with devastated eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered through split lips. "They were waiting. They knew you'd come." "Of course they knew," Anna said, binding Elara's wrists with brutal efficiency. "We've been listening to everything. Every conversation, every plan, every pathetic attempt to outsmart us." She leaned in close. "Did you really think that USB drive was secure? That Sebastian's grandmother's house was safe." Elara's blood turned to ice. "You bugged the files." "We bugged everything." Anna smiled. "The moment you accessed Victor's encrypted files, you downloaded our malware. We've been tracking every move you've made since." Sebastian groaned from the floor, trying to push himself up. Christoph kicked him back down. "Stay," Christoph said, like Sebastian was a dog. "Don't hurt him," Elara begged. "Please. This is about me, not him." "Oh, honey." Anna crouched in front of Elara. "This stopped being about you the moment you started fighting back. Now it's about eliminating everyone who could possibly testify against us." The words sank in slowly. "You're going to kill us," Elara whispered. "Not personally." Anna stood, brushing off her pants. "That would be sloppy." "No, we're going to make this look like a tragic accident." A desperate CEO, unstable from grief and criminal investigation, drove up here with her lover and brother to hide. Unfortunately, there was a gas leak. The whole cabin went up in flames. So tragic. The bodyguards weren't here, according to the traffic cameras we've already doctored. As far as anyone will know, it was just you three. Anna checked her watch. "We've got about 30 minutes before the timer goes off. Plenty of time to make this look authentic." Panic clawed at Elara's throat. "You won't get away with this. Cooper has my father's evidence. He knows what you've done." "Cooper has fabricated evidence we planted," Christoph corrected. "The real files? We erased them the second you accessed the drive. What's left will only incriminate you further. The video of my father. Gone." Anna's smile was poison. "Along with every other piece of evidence Victor collected. You really think we'd let you keep the one thing that could destroy us?" Elara felt the world crumbling. "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why kill my parents? Why not just ask for money? They would have helped you if you'd asked nicely." Anna laughed. "Oh, Elara. You sweet, naive little girl. I didn't want their help. I wanted their empire. I wanted everything they'd built. And the only way to get it was to remove them and position you as the unstable heir who'd eventually self-destruct or hand it over. I would never." "You already are." Anna gestured around the cabin. "You broke into private property. You brought armed men. You're in the middle of a murder investigation where you're the prime suspect. When they find your body here, with your half-brother and your CFO/lover, the narrative writes itself. Guilty conscience led to murder-suicide. The cruelty was breathtaking. The plan flawless." "You're insane," Sebastian rasped from the floor. Christoph kicked him again, harder this time. Sebastian's head snapped back, and Elara screamed. "Stop. Please, stop hurting him." "Then cooperate," Anna said. "I need you to record a confession. A nice little video where you admit to sabotaging the yacht, to creating the fake company, to everything. Make it convincing, and I'll make sure Sebastian dies quickly. Painlessly. Fight me, and I'll let Christoph get creative." Elara looked at Sebastian's bleeding face, at Gale's terrified eyes, at Blake and Rivers struggling against their bonds. She thought about her parents. About the empire they'd built. About the video message from her father, now erased, his final words to her lost forever. Fight for what's yours. But how could she fight when she was tied up, unarmed, and running out of time? "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, I'll do it." Anna's eyes gleamed. "Smart girl." She pulled out a phone and positioned it in front of Elara. "Say your name and today's date." Elara took a shaking breath. "My name is Elara Quinn Carter. Today is..." "Wait." Christoph frowned at his own phone. We've got company. Someone just turned onto the access road. Anna swore viciously. Who? Don't know. But they're coming fast. Deal with it, Anna snapped. I'll finish here. Christoph grabbed a gun from the table and headed for the door. Anna turned back to Elara. Continue, she ordered. But Elara's mind was racing. Someone was coming. A chance, however slim. She just needed to buy time. I can't, Elara said. I can't breathe. Please, the rope is too tight. Nice try. Anna didn't move. I'm serious. I'm hyperventilating. I'm going to pass out. Then pass out. We'll work around it. But Gail spoke up suddenly. She has panic attacks. Has since she was a kid. If she passes out, you won't get your confession. Anna looked at him sharply. How would you know that? Because I've been researching her for 3 years, same as you. Gail's voice was steadier now. You need her conscious and coherent for this to work. So loosen the ropes before she faints. Anna hesitated. It was enough. The door burst open. But it wasn't the police or Cooper or anyone Elara expected. It was Mia Fisher, holding a gun with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how to use it. Step away from her, Mia said coldly. Now. Anna laughed. You've got to be kidding me. The family lawyer thinks she's a hero. I think I'm a woman protecting my client. Away. For a second, Anna considered her options. Then she lunged for the phone on the table, the one with all their communications, their plans, their evidence. Mia fired. The shot went wide, hitting the wall, but it was enough. Anna stumbled back, and in the chaos, Sebastian threw himself at Christoph, who'd come running back inside. They went down in a tangle of limbs and violence. Mia rushed to Elara, cutting through the ropes with a knife from her pocket. Are you hurt? Sebastian. I've got him. Get to the car. Now. But before Elara could move, Christoph broke free and grabbed the tire iron. He swung it at Sebastian's head. Elara screamed. Sebastian rolled at the last second, and the iron hit the floor with a crack that splintered wood. Then Blake and Rivers, having worked themselves free, were on Christoph, bringing him down hard. But Anna was already at the door, phone in hand, running. She's getting away. Gail shouted. Mia raised her gun, but Anna disappeared into the trees. Let her go, Elara gasped. We have Gail. We have Christoph. That's enough. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. Anna was the mastermind. Anna had the connections, the backup plans, the ability to disappear and reinvent herself like she'd done a dozen times before. If she escaped, this would never be over. The police arrived 15 minutes later, not Cooper, but state troopers Mia had contacted before arriving. Christoph was arrested, spitting curses and threats. Gail was taken to the hospital under protective custody. Blake and Rivers were treated for minor injuries. And Elara sat in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic checked Sebastian's wounds. Concussion, the paramedic said. Possible cracked ribs. You need to get to a hospital. I'm fine, Sebastian gritted out. He looked at Elara. Are you okay? She didn't know how to answer that. She was alive. Sebastian was alive. They'd stopped Christoph. But Anna was gone. The evidence was destroyed. And in 2 days, the shareholders' meeting would happen, and without proof of Anna's crimes, Elara would still be under investigation for murder. We lost, she whispered. Sebastian grabbed her hand. We survived. That's not nothing. It's not enough. Mia climbed into the ambulance. Gail's talking. He's giving the state police everything, the planning, the yacht sabotage, Anna's real identity. It's enough to clear you and arrest Anna the second she surfaces. If she surfaces, Elara said dully. She's done this before. She'll disappear, change her name, and we'll never find her. Then we keep looking, Sebastian said fiercely. For as long as it takes. But Elara barely heard him. Because all she could think about was Anna's smile as she described the plan. The casual cruelty. The absolute certainty that she'd won. And maybe she had. Back in Manhattan, Elara stood in her apartment for the first time in 3 days. It felt like a stranger's home. Sebastian was at the hospital, being kept for observation. Blake and Rivers were back on duty, but they felt like guards now instead of protectors. Mia was fielding calls from the press, the board, the police. And Elara was alone. She walked to the window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Anna was planning her next move. Somewhere, Elara's reputation was being shredded in real time. Somewhere, the company her parents had built was being picked apart by vultures. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Elara's hand shook as she opened it. You should have taken the deal when you had the chance. Now you lose everything. Hey, Anna. Taunting her. Another text came through immediately. A photo of the shareholders' meeting agenda. With a motion to remove Elara Quinn Carter as CEO, effective immediately. See you tomorrow, sweetheart. I'll be the one voting your shares. Elara's stomach lurched. What? She breathed. But before she could process it, her lawyer line rang. Nathan. Elara, we have a massive problem. Anna's going to vote my shares, Elara said numbly. How is that possible? Because she just filed an emergency injunction claiming that as your biological mother, she has legal standing to manage your affairs while you're under criminal investigation. Nathan's voice was tight with anger. It's a long shot, but the judge granted a temporary order. Until you're cleared of suspicion, your voting rights are suspended and transferred to your next of kin. No. Elara's legs gave out. She sank to the floor. No, this can't be happening. The shareholders' meeting is tomorrow at noon. If we can't get this overturned by then, she takes the company. Elara's voice was hollow. She gets everything. I'm filing appeals, calling in every favor I have. But Elara. Nathan hesitated. You need to prepare for the possibility that we lose. The call ended. Elara sat on the floor of her billion-dollar penthouse and finally let herself break. Great, racking sobs tore through her chest. Not just for the company, but for her parents. For the life they'd given her. For the fight she'd fought and the war she was losing. She tried. God, she tried so hard. But it wasn't enough. Anna had one. I need to know, have you ever felt like no matter how hard you fight, you just can't win? Like the universe is stacked against you and there's no way out? That's where Elara is right now, at rock bottom with nowhere to go. Drop a comment and tell me about a time you had to find strength when everything seemed hopeless. And please, if you're not subscribed, do it now. Because what happens next is going to change everything. Hours later, there was a knock at her door. Elara almost didn't answer. But the knocking persisted. She dragged herself up and checked the peephole. Sebastian. He was supposed to be in the hospital. She opened the door. What are you doing here? Couldn't stay away. He looked terrible, bandaged, bruised, moving stiffly. Heard about the injunction. Wanted to make sure you weren't alone. I'm fine. You're not. He stepped inside and closed the door. And that's okay. You don't have to be fine right now. Elara's carefully constructed composure shattered. I lost Sebastian. After everything we did, everything we sacrificed, I lost. You haven't lost yet. The meeting is tomorrow. My voting rights are gone. Anna's going to walk in there and take everything my parents built, and I can't stop her. Her voice broke. I failed them. Sebastian crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. You didn't fail anyone. You fought a war against someone who's been doing this her whole life. You survived an ambush. You saved Gail and got Christoph arrested. That's not failure, Elara. That's courage. Courage doesn't save the company. Maybe not. But it saves you. He pulled back to look at her. And right now, that's what matters most. The company was all I had left of them, Elara whispered. If I lose it, I lose the last piece of my parents. That's not true. Sebastian cupped her face. You carry them with you. In the way you lead. The way you fight. The way you love fiercely and refuse to give up even when everything's against you. That's their legacy. Not buildings or bank accounts. Elara wanted to believe him, but all she could feel was the crushing weight of failure. I don't know how to come back from this, she admitted. Then don't come back. Go forward. Sebastian's eyes were intense. Anna thinks she's won because she's taken your voting rights. But she doesn't know you like I do. She doesn't know that when you're backed into a corner, you don't surrender. You innovate. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the one thing Anna can't control, public opinion. Sebastian's voice gained strength. She can manipulate judges and fabricate evidence, but she can't stop you from telling your story. The real story. Elara's mind started racing. A press conference. Not just a press conference. A full exposure. Every crime, every lie, every manipulation. You go public with everything we know about Natalie Harker and her decades of fraud. You show the world who she really is. We don't have proof anymore. She erased it all. We have Gail's testimony. We have Christoph in custody. We have your father's lawyer who can confirm the adoption payment was standard procedure, not a sale. Sebastian was pacing now, energized. And we have Anna's own arrogance. She thinks she's untouchable. She'll show up to that shareholders' meeting expecting to take control. What if we make her face the press instead? She'll just lie. Not if we have someone she can't discredit. Sebastian pulled out his phone. Not if we have Detective Cooper standing beside you, announcing that the investigation has shifted to Anna and Christoph Wolf as primary suspects. Cooper's been compromised. By one dirty cop in his department. I talked to him while I was in the hospital. He's furious about what happened at the cabin, and he's ready to go public with what he really believes, that you're innocent and the Wolves are guilty. Sebastian showed her his phone. Text messages from Cooper, agreeing to a joint press conference. Hope flickered in Elara's chest. Fragile but real. You think this could work? I think we're out of options and out of time. But I also think you're Victor and Catherine Carter's daughter, and that means you don't quit. Sebastian took her hands. One more fight, Elara. Give it everything you have. And if we lose, at least we'll lose knowing we gave them hell. Elara looked at this man who'd risked everything for her. Who'd been beaten and threatened and still showed up at her door because he refused to let her face the darkness alone. She thought about her parents. About the video message that was gone but whose words she'd never forget. Fight for what's yours. She took a shaking breath. Okay, she said. Let's burn it all down. They worked through the night. Nathan drafted statements. Mia coordinated with Cooper. Sebastian compiled every piece of information they still had access to, Gail's recorded testimony, Christoph's arrest records, financial trails that showed the Wolf's pattern of fraud. And Elara wrote her speech. Not a legal defense or a corporate announcement. A truth bomb. By the time the sun rose, they had a plan. By 10 a.m., the press had been alerted to an emergency announcement from Elara Quinn Carter. By 11 a.m., camera crews were setting up outside Carter Crown headquarters. And by 11:30, Elara stood in front of a wall of microphones, flanked by Detective Cooper, Nathan, and Sebastian. The world was watching. Anna was somewhere out there watching. And Elara was done running. My name is Elara Quinn Carter, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. And I'm here to tell you who really killed my parents. The cameras flashed like lightning. And the final battle began. The press conference was set for 11 a.m. Elara had 1 hour to either save everything or lose it all. She stood in the Carter Crown Building's executive bathroom, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back was someone she barely recognized, older, harder, forged in fire. 22 years old and fighting for her life. The door opened. Mia entered, carrying a garment bag. Your armor, she said, unzipping it to reveal a navy suit, Catherine's suit, the one she'd worn to her first board presentation 30 years ago. Elara's throat tightened. Mia! Your mother would want you to have it. She would want you to walk out there looking like the CEO you are. Mia's voice was fierce. Not a victim. Not a suspect. A warrior. Elara took the suit with shaking hands. 10 minutes later, she emerged transformed. Sebastian was waiting in the hallway. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression. You look like her, he said softly. Like Catherine. Unbreakable. I don't feel unbreakable. You don't have to feel it. You just have to be it. Sebastian took her hands. Elara, whatever happens out there, I need you to know something. What? I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Elara's eyes filled with tears. Sebastian, I know the timing is terrible. I know we're in the middle of a war. But I've been in love with you since the day you walked into your first board meeting and told Diane Rothman she was wrong about the Singapore expansion. A crooked smile. You were 21, fresh out of college, and you had more courage in your little finger than most people have in their whole body. I was terrified. You were magnificent. Sebastian cupped her face. You still are. And after this is over, after we've destroyed the Wolf family and saved the company and survived, I'm going to take you somewhere quiet and spend about a week proving exactly how much I love you. Despite everything, Elara laughed. A whole week. At least. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But first, we have a press conference to obliterate. Elara kissed him, pouring everything she couldn't say into the connection. When they broke apart, she felt steadier. I love you too, she whispered. In case that wasn't clear. It was. Sebastian's smile could have lit the city. But I liked hearing it anyway. The press room was packed. Every major outlet was there. Networks, newspapers, online media. The story had everything: wealth, murder, family drama, a young woman fighting for survival. They were vultures circling carrion. Elara walked to the podium with her head high. Sebastian stood to her left. Detective Cooper to her right. Nathan and Mia flanked them both. A united front. The cameras flashed like lightning. My name is Elara Quinn Carter, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. And I'm here to tell you who really killed my parents. The room went silent. 3 weeks ago, Victor and Catherine Carter died in what Italian authorities called an accidental yacht explosion. But it wasn't an accident. It was murder. Premeditated, calculated murder committed by two people who saw my family as nothing more than a paycheck. She pulled up the first slide, Anna and Christoph's mugshots from previous fraud cases, displayed side by side. This is Natalie Harker, also known as Anna Wolf. Career con artist. Wanted in 3 states for securities fraud, identity theft, and extortion. And this is Christoph Wolf, her husband and accomplice, with a criminal record including arson and assault. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. These people are my biological parents. Natalie gave birth to me 22 years ago, not out of love, but as part of a con. She used me as leverage to extort money from a wealthy businessman. When that failed, she abandoned me in a location she'd specifically chosen, 3 blocks from a Carter Crown hotel, hoping a wealthy couple would find me and pay her to disappear. The journalists were scribbling frantically now. Victor and Catherine Carter didn't buy me. They rescued me. And yes, they paid Natalie $200,000, but it wasn't a purchase price. It was the cost of my freedom. The cost of ensuring that a woman who'd used her own child as a bargaining chip would never have legal standing to do it again. Elara's voice strengthened. For 20 years, the Carters kept me safe from this truth. They gave me a childhood filled with love instead of trauma. They built an empire and taught me how to run it. They were my real parents in every way that matters. She pulled up the next slide, the security footage of Christoph boarding the yacht. And 3 weeks ago, Christoph Wolf sabotaged their yacht. He planted an explosive device in the engine room, set it on a timer, and murdered 2 people whose only crime was loving me. The room erupted with questions, but Elara kept going. The Wolf family then filed a lawsuit claiming biological rights to my inheritance. They leaked false evidence to make me look like a suspect in my own parents' deaths. They fabricated text messages, created fake companies in my name, and did everything possible to destroy my reputation and destabilize my position as CEO. She locked eyes with a camera. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated how much my father loved me. Victor Carter spent years documenting their crimes, gathering evidence, preparing for the day they'd make their move. And before he died, he left me everything I needed to expose them. Nathan stepped forward, holding up a thick file. This contains irrefutable proof of Natalie Harker and Christoph Wolf's criminal activities spanning 2 decades, he announced. Financial records, witness testimonies, surveillance footage, and a video confession from Victor Carter himself detailing their threats against his family. All of this has been turned over to the district attorney's office. Detective Cooper took the microphone. As of this morning, arrest warrants have been issued for Natalie Harker, also known as Anna Wolf, and Christoph Wolf for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and extortion. Christoph Wolf is currently in custody. Natalie Harker is considered armed and dangerous. The press went wild. Questions flew from every direction. Miss Quinn, how do you respond to accusations that you were involved? Are you stepping down as CEO? What about your half-brother? Elara raised her hand for silence. I am not stepping down. I am not under investigation. And I am not going to let two criminals destroy what my parents built. Her voice rang with conviction. Carter Crown Resorts was founded on integrity, excellence, and the belief that family, real family, chosen family, is worth fighting for. That legacy will continue. I will make sure of it. She looked directly at the cameras. And to Natalie Harker, wherever you're watching, you took my parents from me. You tried to take my company, my reputation, my life. But you failed. Because I am Victor and Catherine Carter's daughter. And we don't surrender. The room exploded. The press conference played on every channel for hours. By 2 p.m., public opinion had shifted entirely. Social media was flooded with support for Elara. The hashtag Justice for the Carters was trending worldwide. And by 3 p.m., the board of directors had called an emergency meeting. Elara walked into that boardroom very differently than she had 3 weeks ago. This time, she wasn't asking for their approval. This time, she was telling them how it was going to be. The shareholders' meeting is tomorrow, she began without preamble. And I know that some of you have doubts about my leadership. That's fair. I'm young. I'm inexperienced in some ways. And I've been at the center of a very public scandal. She looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. But I'm also the person who just exposed a murder conspiracy. Who protected this company's reputation when it was under attack. Who fought back against people who wanted to tear us apart. Her voice was steel. I'm not asking you to trust me because of my last name. I'm asking you to trust me because of what I've proven I can do. Diane stood. Elara, no one here doubts your courage or your commitment. But the question isn't whether you can lead. It's whether you're ready to lead right now. I am. Elara didn't hesitate. I'm ready to expand our sustainability initiatives, to modernize our booking systems, to enter emerging markets in Southeast Asia. I'm ready to honor my parents' legacy while building something new. Sebastian stepped forward. And she won't be doing it alone. I'm proposing a new executive structure, Elara as CEO with a strengthened advisory board. We bring in experienced COOs and VPs to handle day-to-day operations while Elara focuses on vision and strategy. Like a partnership, another board member said slowly. Exactly like a partnership. Sebastian looked at Elara. She provides the leadership and innovation. We provide the institutional knowledge and support. It was brilliant. It gave the board the reassurance they needed while keeping Elara in control. Diane smiled. I can work with that. One by one, the others nodded. Then it's settled, Elara said. Tomorrow at the shareholders' meeting, we present a united front. We show them that Carter Crown isn't just surviving this crisis, we're coming out stronger. The meeting adjourned with handshakes and renewed energy. For the first time in weeks, Elara felt like she could actually breathe. She found Sebastian in her office afterward, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. You did it, he said without turning around. You actually did it. We did it. Elara came to stand beside him. I couldn't have survived this without you. Sure you could have. You're Victor and Catherine's daughter. He smiled. But I'm glad you didn't have to. Elara leaned her head against his shoulder. What happens now? Now? We wait for the police to find Anna. We prep for the shareholders' meeting. We start rebuilding. Sebastian's arm came around her waist. And we figure out what we are to each other. I thought we already did that. You said you loved me. I do love you. But I'm also your CFO. And there are ethics policies and optics to consider and... Elara turned to face him fully. Sebastian Brand, are you actually worried about what people will think? I'm worried about your reputation. You just survived a murder scandal. The last thing you need is people saying your CFO is sleeping with you to secure his position. Then quit. Sebastian blinked. What? Quit as CFO. Stay on as an advisor or take a VP role or do literally anything else. Elara's hands came up to frame his face. Because I love you. And I'm not giving you up for optics. Elara, I'm not asking you to choose between me and... I know. I'm choosing anyway. She kissed him softly. You said after this was over, you'd take me somewhere quiet for a week. I'm holding you to that. Sebastian's expression shifted from concern to something that looked a lot like wonder. You're serious? Completely. Elara smiled. What do you say, Mr. Brand? Want to be with a woman who comes with $1 billion empire and a target on her back? I'd follow you into hell, Elara Quinn Carter. He kissed her deeply. A tropical island sounds significantly better. They were still kissing when Mia burst through the door. Sorry to interrupt, but... She stopped. Oh, are you too? Yes, Elara and Sebastian said in unison. Finally. Mia rolled her eyes. The whole office has been taking bets for months. Anyway, you need to see this. She pulled up a news alert on her tablet. Breaking. Natalie Harker apprehended at Canadian border. Elara's heart leaped. They got her, she breathed. The article detailed Anna's arrest. She'd been trying to flee to Canada with false documents and nearly $1 million in cash. Police had intercepted her based on a tip. What tip? Sebastian asked. Mia scrolled down. Anonymous call from a burner phone. Someone told them exactly where she'd be and when. Elara frowned. Who would? Her phone rang. A known number. She answered cautiously. Hello. It's Gail. Relief flooded through her. Are you okay? Where are you? Safe house. Cooper's protection. Gail's voice was quiet. I saw the press conference. You were amazing. Thank you. And thank you for calling in Anna's location. I didn't. Elara froze. What? I've been in custody the whole time. No phone access. It wasn't me who tipped off the police. Then who? A thought occurred to her. A wild, impossible thought. Gail, when you were with Anna and Christoph, did you ever hear them mention anyone else? Another partner, another person involved in the plan. A long pause. There was someone, Gail said slowly. Someone Anna talked to on the phone sometimes. She called them the insurance policy. Said if things went wrong, they'd make sure the plan still worked. Did you ever hear a name? No. But Elara. I think they were inside Carter Crown. Someone who had access to information, to your schedule, to everything. The room spun. Someone inside the company. Someone who'd been helping Anna and Christoph all along. Gail, I need you to think very carefully. Did Anna ever say anything about who this person was? Any detail at all? Just that they'd been with the company for years. That they were loyal to Victor once, but that loyalty had a price. Elara's mind raced through possibilities. Board members. Executives. Who would betray her father? There's something else, Gail added. The day of the press conference, before Anna tried to run, she got a phone call. I heard her yelling at someone. She said, "You promised me the votes. You promised me control." And then whoever it was must have told her it was over, because she broke down. Started packing. Someone at Carter Crown promised her the votes, Elara repeated slowly. Someone who could influence the shareholders. Sebastian and Mia were staring at her. Who? Sebastian demanded. Elara thought about the past few weeks. About who'd been in every meeting, every strategy session. Who'd had access to all the information that had somehow made its way to Anna. Who'd been encouraging the board to doubt Elara's leadership from the very beginning. Her blood turned to ice. Diane, she whispered. Real talk. Have you ever had someone you trusted completely betray you? Someone you never saw coming? That gut punch moment when you realize everything was a lie? That's where Elara is right now. Drop a comment and tell me about your experience, or if you saw this twist coming. And please, if you're not already subscribed, do it now. We're heading into the final confrontation and you do not want to miss this. That's impossible, Mia said. Diane was Catherine's closest friend. She's been supportive this entire time. Has she? Elara's mind was replaying every interaction. Or has she been perfectly positioned to feed information to Anna while appearing to be on my side? Sebastian was already pulling up files on his laptop. Diane Rothman, Chief of Acquisitions. With the company for 18 years. Brought on by Victor when he stopped. When Carter Crown acquired her boutique hotel chain after it went bankrupt. She lost her own company, Elara said. And my father bought it out from under her. Saved it, Mia corrected. He kept her on, gave her executive position, paid her well for nearly 2 decades. Or maybe she's been waiting 2 decades for revenge. Elara pulled out her phone. Cooper, I need you to look into Diane Rothman's finances. Specifically any large deposits or transfers in the last 6 months. On it, Cooper said. But Elara, if she's been working with Anna, why tip off the police about Anna's location? Because Anna was the liability. With Christoph arrested and Gail testifying, Anna couldn't deliver what she'd promised. So Diane cut her loose to protect herself. Elara's voice was grim. But the shareholders' meeting is still tomorrow. And if Diane controls enough proxy votes, she could still push through a leadership change, Sebastian finished. Even with Anna arrested, even with public opinion on your side, if she has the votes, she wins. Elara sank into her chair. We exposed Anna and Christoph, but Diane was the real threat all along. Her phone buzzed. Cooper, found something. Diane received a wire transfer 3 months ago for $500,000. Sender is an offshore account. Can you trace it? Working on it. But Elara, there's more. Diane purchased a significant number of Carter Crown shares through shell companies over the past year. If she controls those plus the proxy votes from board members who trust her, she has enough to vote me out, Elara whispered. The room fell silent. They'd fought so hard, exposed so much, survived so much, and they were still going to lose. No. Sebastian's voice cut through her despair. We're not giving up. We have 12 hours before the shareholders' meeting. That's enough time to... To what? Elara interrupted. Prove Diane's been working with Anna? We have a wire transfer and some circumstantial evidence. That's not enough. Then we get more evidence. Sebastian's jaw was set. We go through every communication, every file, every interaction Diane's had in the last 6 months. We find the connection to Anna and we expose her before she can make her move. Mia was already typing on her tablet. I'm pulling all of Diane's email records, phone logs, meeting schedules. She'll have been careful, Elara said dully. Someone smart enough to play both sides for this long won't leave an obvious trail. Everyone makes mistakes, Sebastian insisted. We just have to find hers. They worked through the night. Elara, Sebastian, Mia, Nathan, and a team of forensic accountants went through every piece of information they could access. Email records showed Diane had been in regular contact with a consultant named Sarah Mitchell. But Sarah Mitchell didn't exist. The email address was fake, the number disconnected. Phone logs showed calls to various blocked numbers at suspicious times, right before the break-in at Elara's office, right before the fake texts appeared, right before Anna showed up at the penthouse. Financial records showed Diane had been slowly selling off her Carter Crown stock options and reinvesting in companies that would benefit from Carter Crown's collapse. It was damning, but it wasn't proof. Not the kind that would hold up in court. Not the kind that would convince shareholders in 12 hours. By 5 a.m., Elara was ready to admit defeat. We're not going to find it, she said, her voice breaking. Diane's too smart. She's covered her tracks too well. Sebastian looked up from his laptop, exhausted and frustrated. There has to be something. Some communication between her and Anna that... There won't be. Elara stood and walked to the window. Dawn was breaking over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. She used burner phones and fake emails. She met in person or used encrypted messages. She's been planning this as long as Anna has. So what do we do? Mia asked quietly. Elara thought about her parents. About everything they'd taught her, everything they'd built. About the video message from her father. Fight for what's yours. An idea sparked. We don't fight Diane's game, Elara said slowly. We change the rules. Sebastian stood. What are you thinking? Elara turned to face them, her mind racing. The shareholders' meeting is at noon. Diane is expecting me to show up, make my case, and lose the vote. She's expecting a traditional corporate battle. So we give her something else, Nathan said, catching on. Exactly. Elara's voice strengthened. We don't just defend my leadership. We put Diane on trial. In front of every shareholder, every journalist, every person watching. How? Mia asked. With the one thing Diane can't control or explain away, Anna herself. Sebastian's eyes widened. You want to bring Anna to the shareholders' meeting. I want Anna to testify. In front of everyone. About who helped her, who promised her control of the company, who betrayed the Carters from the inside. Elara pulled out her phone. Cooper, I need a favor. A big one. At 11:30 a.m., Elara walked into the shareholders' meeting. The ballroom was packed, hundreds of shareholders, dozens of journalists, camera crews from every major network. The biggest corporate showdown of the year. Diane sat in the front row, perfectly composed, surrounded by board members she'd carefully cultivated. She smiled when she saw Elara. Ready for this? Sebastian murmured from beside her. No, Elara admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. The meeting was called to order. The chairman, an elderly man who'd known Victor for 40 years, began with formalities. Then Diane stood. I'd like to call for an immediate vote of no confidence in our current CEO, she announced. Elara Quinn Carter has shown remarkable courage in recent weeks, but courage alone doesn't qualify someone to run a multinational corporation. She's young, inexperienced, and has been at the center of a scandal that's damaged our reputation and our stock price. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. I propose that we install a temporary leadership committee while we conduct a proper search for a permanent CEO. Someone with experience, stability, and the respect of the business community. It was a brilliant move. Diane wasn't positioning herself as the CEO. That would be too obvious. She was positioning herself as the savior, the experienced hand who would guide them through the transition. And once she had control of the committee, she'd slowly consolidate power until she was effectively running everything. I second the motion, another board member said. Discussion? The chairman asked, looking at Elara. She stood slowly. I have a question for Diane first, Elara said. Her voice was calm. Steady. How much did Natalie Harker pay you to betray my family? The room went silent. Diane's expression didn't change. I'm sorry, what? Natalie Harker. Also known as Anna Wolf. The woman who murdered my parents and tried to steal this company. Elara pulled up the first slide, the wire transfer. She paid you $500,000 3 months ago. What was that for? That's a private investment in a shell company that doesn't exist, Elara interrupted. We traced it. The company is fake. The address is a P.O. box. The only purpose of that wire transfer was to hide the fact that you were being paid by a known criminal. Diane's facade cracked slightly. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to dignify these accusations. Then dignify this one. Elara pulled up another slide, phone records. You called a blocked number 17 times in the 3 weeks before my parents died. That number has been traced to a burner phone that was in Sardinia at the time of the explosion. The shareholders were murmuring now, shifting uncomfortably. Those calls could have been to anyone, Diane said, but her voice was strained. Could they? Elara pulled up the next slide, email records. Or maybe they were coordinating with Sarah Mitchell, the fake consultant you've been emailing for 6 months. The consultant who gave you inside information about Anna's lawsuit, about the evidence against me, about everything that was supposedly confidential. Diane stood. I've worked for this company for 18 years. I was Catherine's friend. Victor trusted me. And now you're accusing me of murder conspiracy based on circumstantial evidence and paranoid theories. I'm accusing you based on this. Elara nodded to the back of the room. The doors opened, and Detective Cooper walked in with Anna Wolf in handcuffs. The room erupted. Anna looked terrible, unwashed, exhausted, defeated. She was wearing an orange jumpsuit, and her hands were shackled. But her eyes went straight to Diane. And Diane went pale. Miss Harker has agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence, Cooper announced. And she has some very interesting things to say about who helped her plan the murder of Victor and Catherine Carter. Anna was led to the front of the room. A microphone was placed in front of her. "Tell them," Cooper said quietly. Anna looked at Diane. Then at Elara. "I didn't plan this alone," she said, her voice hoarse. "I couldn't have. I needed someone inside the company. Someone who knew Victor's schedule, his habits, his security protocols." "And who was that?" Elara asked. Anna's eyes were hollow. "Diane Rothman approached me 4 years ago. She'd been tracking me through my previous cons, found out I was Elara's biological mother. She offered me a deal, help her take down the Carters, and we'd split the company." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. "Diane told me everything I needed to know. When Victor and Catherine would be in Sardinia, what kind of yacht they had, where the security vulnerabilities were." Anna's voice broke. She even helped Christoph get access to the boat the night before. She told the marina staff he was a Carter Crown employee doing a safety inspection. Diane was shaking her head. "She's lying. She's a con artist who's trying to—" "I have recordings," Anna interrupted. She looked at Cooper, who pulled out a phone. "I recorded our calls. Just in case things went wrong and I needed insurance." Cooper hit play. Diane's voice filled the room. "The yacht leaves Tuesday morning. You'll have Monday night to plant the device. Make it look like an engine malfunction. And if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong. I've planned every detail. And once they're gone, we frame Elara and take control." The recording ended. Diane stood frozen, all color drained from her face. "It was never about the money, was it?" Elara said quietly. "It was about revenge. My father bought your company when you were bankrupt. He saved it, but you never saw it that way. You saw it as him stealing your legacy." "He humiliated me," Diane whispered. "He turned my hotels into Carter Crown properties. He erased my name, my work, everything I'd built. And then he expected me to be grateful. So you waited. For 18 years, you waited for the perfect opportunity." Elara's voice was hard. "And when you found out about Anna, you saw your chance. You'd get revenge, you'd get control, and you'd destroy the family that you thought destroyed you." Diane said nothing. "Diane Rothman," Cooper said, stepping forward, "you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and corporate espionage." As the officers led Diane away in handcuffs, the ballroom erupted in chaos. Journalists swarmed. Shareholders shouted questions. Board members looked shell-shocked. But Elara just stood there, watching the woman who'd betrayed her family being led away. It was over. Finally, impossibly, it was over. The chairman called for order. "Given recent revelations," he said, his voice shaking, "I move to table the vote of no confidence and reaffirm our support for CO Elara Quinn Carter." "Seconded," came from multiple voices. The vote was unanimous. Elara had won. Hours later, after the shareholders had left and the journalists had been escorted out and the building had finally gone quiet, Elara stood in her office with Sebastian. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it. You did it." Sebastian pulled her into his arms. "You were brilliant. Fierce. Unstoppable. I was terrified. Even better." He kissed her softly. "Now, about that tropical island." Elara laughed, the sound rusty from disuse but genuine. "I think I'm ready for that week away from the world." "Only a week?" "We'll start with a week and see how it goes." She looked up at him. "Sebastian, I know we said we'd figure out what we are to each other, but I think I already know." "What's that?" "You're the person I want beside me. In the boardroom, in the bedroom, in every moment that comes next." Elara's voice was steady. "I love you. And if you're willing to take a chance on a CEO with a murder scandal in her past and a billion-dollar target on her back, I'm in." Sebastian's smile could have lit the city. For all of it. Forever, if you'll have me. Forever sounds perfect. They kissed as the sun set over Manhattan, two people who'd survived hell and found each other in the fire. And for the first time since her parents died, Elara felt something that had been missing for so long. 3 months later, Elara stood in a Manhattan courthouse, watching as Diane Rothman was led into the courtroom in handcuffs. The trial had been postponed twice, once because Diane's lawyers tried to suppress Anna's testimony, and once because new evidence kept emerging. But today was the day. The final confrontation. Sebastian sat beside her in the gallery, his hand finding hers as Diane was seated at the defense table. Diane looked different. Thinner. Harder. Her expensive suit couldn't hide the prison pallor or the hollow look in her eyes. She didn't look at Elara. Not once. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Rebecca Blake, stood to deliver her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about betrayal. About a woman who spent 18 years pretending to be a loyal friend while planning the perfect murder. About greed, revenge, and a conspiracy so calculated that it nearly succeeded. Elara listened as Rebecca laid out the evidence. The phone records. The wire transfers. Anna's testimony about Diane's involvement in planning the yacht explosion. The recordings where Diane's voice was crystal clear, plotting every detail. It was damning. But Diane's lawyer, an expensive shark named Thomas Hendricks, wasn't going down without a fight. The prosecution would have you believe that my client is a mastermind criminal, he said in his opening statement. But what they have is the word of a convicted con artist, some circumstantial phone records, and a series of business decisions that they're trying to twist into evidence of murder. He gestured to Diane. Diane Rothman dedicated 18 years of her life to Carter Crown Resorts. She was Catherine Carter's closest friend. She mourned their deaths alongside their daughter. And now, because she questioned whether a 22-year-old was ready to run a billion-dollar company, she's been framed for murder by the very people who should have trusted her. It was a bold strategy. Paint Elara as the villain. Make the jury sympathize with Diane. Elara felt Sebastian tense beside her. He's good, Sebastian muttered. Rebecca's better, Elara whispered back. She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Rebecca systematically destroyed Diane's defense. She brought in forensic accountants who traced Diane's offshore accounts and proved she'd been siphoning money from Carter Crown for years. She brought in IT experts who recovered deleted emails between Diane and Anna, discussing everything from the yacht specifications to how to frame Elara for the murders. She brought in Gail Wolfe, who testified about overhearing Anna on the phone with someone she called the inside woman, someone who'd promised that once the Carters were dead, everything would fall into place. And then, in a move that shocked everyone, Rebecca brought in someone no one expected. Marina Kovac, the harbor master from Sardinia. Through a translator, Marina testified that a woman matching Diane's description had visited the marina 3 days before the explosion, asking detailed questions about the Carter yacht's security protocols and maintenance schedule. She said she was from the company, Marina explained. That she was doing a safety audit. I gave her access to the records because she had proper identification. Rebecca pulled up security footage from the marina. Grainy, but unmistakable. Diane Rothman, standing at the dock, looking directly at the Carter yacht. The courtroom erupted. Diane's face went white. And Elara felt something crack open in her chest. Not grief this time. Something else. Justice. The prosecution rested after 3 weeks of testimony. The defense put up a valiant effort. Character witnesses who swore Diane was incapable of murder, experts who questioned the validity of the recordings, attempts to discredit Anna as a witness. But it wasn't enough. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood with a piece of paper in her hand. On the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of wire fraud? Guilty. On the charge of corporate espionage? Guilty. 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 Diane showed no emotion as the verdicts were read. She simply sat there, stone-faced, as her entire carefully constructed life collapsed around her. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later, but everyone knew what it would be. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the court adjourned, Diane was led out in handcuffs. For just a moment, she turned and looked at Elara. There was no remorse in her eyes. No regret. Just cold, bitter hatred. "It should have been mine," Diane said quietly. "All of it. I built those hotels. I made them profitable. And Victor took them from me." "My father saved your company when you drove it into the ground," Elara replied, her voice steady. "He gave you a second chance, a career, a future. And you repaid him by murdering him. He humiliated me. He trusted you. So did my mother. And you betrayed that trust because your ego couldn't handle the fact that you failed and he succeeded." Elara stepped closer. "I hope you have a long life, Diane. I hope you spend every single day of it remembering that you destroyed yourself over something as pathetic as wounded pride." Diane's expression crumbled. And as the officers led her away, Elara felt the weight she'd been carrying for months finally begin to lift. Question for you all: do you believe in forgiveness? Could you forgive someone who murdered people you loved? Or is there a line that, once crossed, can never be uncrossed? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're not subscribed yet, please do it now. We're almost at the end, and you won't want to miss how this story concludes. The sentencing hearing 2 weeks later was brief. Diane was sentenced to life without parole for conspiracy to commit murder, plus additional decades for fraud and corporate crimes. Anna and Christoph had already been sentenced. Anna got 30 years in exchange for her testimony against Diane, and Christoph got life for actually planting the explosive device. It was over. Truly, finally over. Elara stood on the courthouse steps afterward, surrounded by journalists asking for her reaction. "I'm relieved that justice has been served," she said simply. "My parents were good people who were murdered for greed and revenge. Nothing can bring them back, but knowing that their killers will spend the rest of their lives in prison, it's something." "What's next for Carter Crown?" a reporter called out. Elara smiled. "Growth. Innovation. Honoring my parents' legacy while building something new." "And what about your personal life? Are the rumors about you and Sebastian Brand true?" Sebastian appeared at her elbow, his hands settling on her lower back. "Yes," Elara said simply. "Sebastian is my partner. In business and in life." The cameras went crazy. But Elara didn't care. She'd fought for her company, her reputation, and her truth. She wasn't going to hide the best thing to come out of this nightmare. That night, Elara finally did something she'd been putting off for months. She went to her parents' estate in the Hamptons. The house had been closed up since their deaths, preserved exactly as they'd left it. Elara had inherited the property, but she hadn't been able to face it until now. Sebastian came with her, understanding without being told that she needed support but not interference. They walked through the quiet rooms together. Catherine's study, where she'd worked on her philanthropic projects. Victor's library, where he'd taught Elara about business and life. The dining table where they'd had family dinners every Sunday. It was like walking through a museum of her own happiness. In the master bedroom, Elara found something she hadn't expected. A letter, propped on her mother's vanity. Addressed to her in Catherine's handwriting. Her hands shook as she opened it. "My dearest Elara, if you're reading this, it means Victor and I are gone. And it means you've faced something we hoped you'd never have to face. The truth about your adoption, about Natalie Harker, about all the secrets we kept to protect you. I imagine you're angry with us. Maybe you feel betrayed. Maybe you question whether we really loved you, or if you were just a transaction. So let me tell you something I should have told you years ago. You were never a purchase. You were a miracle. Victor and I tried for 10 years to have children. We went through every treatment, every procedure, every heartbreak. And when the doctors finally told us it would never happen, we grieved. We grieved the children we'd never have, the family we'd never build. Then we met you. A tiny, fierce little girl with trust issues and a heart that had been broken too many times. A girl who'd been used as a pawn by the woman who gave birth to her. A girl who deserved so much more than what she'd been given. The moment I held you, I knew. You weren't someone else's child that we were taking in. You were our daughter. The child we'd been waiting for all along. Yes, we paid Natalie Harker $200,000. But that money wasn't for you. It was to make her go away. To ensure that she could never use you as leverage again. To buy your freedom from a woman who saw you as currency. Was it the right choice? I don't know. Maybe we should have pressed charges against her. Maybe we should have involved the authorities. But we were so afraid of losing you. Afraid that the system would take you away while the investigation dragged on. Afraid that you'd end up in another foster home, with another family, instead of with us. So we paid. And we made her sign away all rights. And we brought you home. For 15 years, we watched you grow into an extraordinary woman. Kind, brilliant, fierce, compassionate. Everything we dreamed our daughter would be. We knew Natalie might come back someday. We prepared for it as best we could. Victor gathered evidence, set up protections, made sure you'd be taken care of if something happened to us. But we also tried to give you a childhood free from fear. Free from the shadow of a woman who'd never deserved you. We wanted you to feel secure and loved and chosen, because you were chosen, Elara. Every single day we chose you. We chose to be your parents. We chose to love you. We chose to build a life and a legacy that would one day be yours. I'm sorry we couldn't protect you from all of this. I'm sorry our deaths brought Natalie back into your life. I'm sorry for the secrets and the pain and the burden of fighting a war we should have finished years ago. But I'm not sorry for loving you. I'm not sorry for the 15 years we had together. And I'm not sorry for choosing you as our daughter. You are a Carter, sweetheart. Not because of paperwork or money or legal contracts. Because of love. Because of the family we built together, day by day, moment by moment. I hope you can forgive us for the secrets. I hope you can understand that everything we did was to protect you. And I hope you know, deep in your soul, that you were loved beyond measure. Be strong, my darling girl. Be fierce. Be kind. Be everything you already are. And know that wherever we are, we're watching you with pride and joy and endless love. Forever your mother, Catherine. Elara sank to the floor, clutching the letter, and sobbed. All the anger, all the doubt, all the wounded questions, they dissolved in the face of her mother's words. She'd been chosen. Every single day. Sebastian found her there 20 minutes later, curled on the floor with the letter pressed to her chest. He didn't say anything. He just sat beside her and pulled her into his arms while she cried. They loved me, Elara choked out. Even with all the secrets, even with everything they kept from me, they loved me. I know, Sebastian murmured. I always knew. I was so angry at them. For lying. For not telling me the truth. You were allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel complicated things about complicated people. Sebastian kissed her temple. But Elara, I knew your parents. I saw them with you. And I promise you, every decision they made came from love. Maybe not always the right decision, but always from love. Elara nodded against his chest. They sat there for a long time, in the house where she'd grown up, surrounded by memories of the family she'd lost. But for the first time since the funeral, those memories didn't feel like ghosts. They felt like a foundation. Something to build on instead of something to mourn. The next morning, Elara held a press conference. Not about the trial. Not about Diane or Anna or the murders. About the future. Carter Crown Resorts was built on a simple philosophy, she said, standing in front of the flagship hotel her parents had opened 30 years ago. That everyone deserves to feel welcomed, valued, chosen. She looked directly at the cameras. My parents lived that philosophy every day. In how they ran this company, how they treated their employees, and how they raised me. I was an unwanted child from a broken system, and they made me feel like the most important person in the world. Her voice strengthened. That's the legacy I want to continue. Not just in our hotels, but in everything we do. So today, I'm announcing the Carter Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting foster children and adoptive families. We'll provide resources, education, advocacy, and support to ensure that every child finds a home where they're truly chosen. The journalists were scribbling frantically. We're starting with a $50 million endowment from my personal inheritance, Elara continued. And I'm challenging other companies, other leaders, to match our commitment. Because every child deserves what my parents gave me, A family that fights for them. Sebastian stepped forward. Carter Crown is also committing to a new initiative. We'll be hiring and training foster youth for positions throughout our company. We'll provide internships, mentorships, and career pathways for young people who might otherwise fall through the cracks. It was a bold move. A risky one even. But as Elara looked out at the crowd, she saw nods of approval. Smiles. People recording on their phones, not to tear her down, but to share something hopeful. For months, she'd been a scandal. Tragedy. A victim. Now, she was something else. A leader. Real talk. When terrible things happen to us, we have a choice. Let them destroy us or use them to build something better. Elara's choosing to build. What about you? Have you ever taken your pain and turned it into purpose? Share your story in the comments. And seriously, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We're about to wrap this up with the most satisfying conclusion ever. 6 months after the trial, Carter Crown's stock was at an all-time high. The scandal had, paradoxically, made the company more popular. People loved the story of the young CEO who'd survived murder, betrayal, and conspiracy to emerge stronger. But more than that, they loved what Elara was building. The Carter Foundation had already placed over 200 foster children in permanent homes and provided support to thousands more families. The Foster Youth Employment Initiative had brought in hundreds of talented young people who were thriving in roles across the company. And Elara had just announced plans to expand Carter Crown into 3 new markets, including a groundbreaking eco-resort in Costa Rica that would set new standards for sustainable luxury. She was doing exactly what her parents had hoped. She was building an empire with a conscience. The board meeting that month was very different from the one 6 months ago. Diane's seat was empty. It had been formally stripped from her after her conviction. And in her place sat someone new, Gale Wolfe. After the trial, Gale had been lost. His mother and stepfather were in prison. He had no family, no direction, nothing. Elara had offered him a job. Not out of obligation, but because she'd seen something in him. A goodness that had survived despite being raised by criminals. A courage that had made him call her at 3 a.m. to warn her, even though it put his own life at risk. He'd started in marketing. Within 3 months, he'd developed a campaign that went viral and brought in a whole new demographic of younger travelers. He had a gift, and Elara was determined to nurture it. The Costa Rica project is on track, Gale reported at the meeting. We've partnered with local communities, hired indigenous consultants, and designed a resort that gives back more than it takes. Projected opening is next spring. Excellent work, Elara said. She looked around the table. I also want to discuss succession planning. The room went quiet. I'm 23 years old, Elara said with a small smile. I'm not going anywhere for a long time. But my parents' deaths taught me that we can't take tomorrow for granted. So I'm proposing we formalize a leadership development program, identify and train the next generation of Carter Crown executives. Sebastian nodded. I'll work with HR to develop the framework. And I'd like to nominate our first candidate for the program, Elara continued. She looked at Gale. If he's interested. Gale's eyes went wide. Me? You've shown initiative, creativity, and integrity. You risked everything to do the right thing, and you've proven yourself in every role we've given you. Elara's voice was warm. My parents believed in giving people chances. I'd like to give you one. Gale's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Sebastian said with a grin. Yes. Gale laughed. Absolutely yes. As the meeting adjourned, Gale approached Elara in the hallway. Thank you, he said quietly. For everything. For not blaming me for what Anna and Christoph did. For giving me a chance when you had every reason to hate me. You're not responsible for your parents' choices, Elara said. You're only responsible for your own. And your choices have been honorable. I just want you to know. Gale hesitated. You're the best sister I could have asked for. I know we're only half siblings, and I know the circumstances are complicated, but... You're my brother, Elara interrupted. Genetics don't make a family. Choice does. And I choose you. Gale pulled her into a hug. And Elara felt another piece of her broken heart heal. That evening, Sebastian took Elara to the rooftop of the original Carter Crown Hotel. It had been closed to guests for the night. He'd arranged for it to be private. The Manhattan skyline glittered around them, and the summer air was warm and soft. "What's this about?" Elara asked, laughing as he led her to the edge of the terrace. "I have something for you." Sebastian pulled a small box from his pocket. Elara's heart stopped. "Sebastian, I know we've only been together for 6 months," he said quickly. "I know it's fast. I know we're young and there's no rush and we have all the time in the world. But I also know that life is short and uncertain. I know that the people we love can be taken from us in an instant. And I know that I don't want to waste a single moment not telling you exactly how I feel." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, with a diamond that caught the city lights and threw rainbows across the terrace. "Elara Quinn Carter," Sebastian said, his voice rough with emotion, "you are the bravest, most brilliant, most infuriating woman I've ever met. You challenge me. You inspire me. You make me want to be better than I am." Elara's eyes filled with tears. "I love you. I love your strength and your compassion and your terrible poker face. I love the way you fight for what's right even when it's hard. I love who you are and who you're becoming." He dropped to one knee. "I don't want to wait years to ask you this. I don't want to play it safe or do what's expected. I want to choose you the way your parents chose you. Every single day for the rest of my life." Elara's hands flew to her mouth. "Will you marry me?" For a moment, she couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Then she dropped to her knees in front of him and kissed him with everything she had. "Yes," she gasped between kisses. "Yes, yes, yes." Sebastian laughed and slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "I have one condition," Elara said as they stood, his arms around her waist. "Anything. We get married at the Costa Rica resort. When it opens. Something new. Something ours." "Perfect." Sebastian kissed her softly. "Just like you." They stood on that rooftop for hours, wrapped in each other, making plans for a future that had seemed impossible 6 months ago. Below them, the city hummed with life. Above them, the stars shone. And Elara felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. 2 weeks later, Elara received a package from the district attorney's office. Inside was a USB drive and a note from Rebecca Blake. "Thought you'd want this." It was recovered from Diane's personal safe. RC. Curious, Elara plugged the drive into her computer. It contained one file, a video recording. She hit play. The screen showed Diane, sitting in what looked like her home office. The date stamp was from 5 years ago. "If anyone is watching this," Diane said to the camera, "it means my plan failed. It means I've been caught." Elara leaned forward. "I want it on record that I have no regrets," Diane continued. "Victor Carter destroyed my life. He took my company, my reputation, my legacy, and he turned it into another jewel in his crown. He made me grateful for the privilege of working for him, of being allowed to stay in the business I built." Her expression twisted with bitterness. "For 18 years, I played the loyal employee, the trusted friend. I smiled and nodded and pretended to be grateful. But every day I was planning, waiting, looking for the perfect opportunity to take back what was mine." She leaned closer to the camera. "When I discovered that Elara was adopted, that she'd been abandoned by a criminal, I knew I'd found my weapon. I tracked down Natalie Harker. I offered her a partnership, help me destroy the Carters, and we'd split the empire." Diane smiled. "It was perfect. Victor and Catherine dead. Elara framed and discredited. The board turning against her. And me, stepping in to save the company in its darkest hour." She laughed. "But if you're watching this, something went wrong. Maybe Natalie betrayed me. Maybe Elara was smarter than I gave her credit for. Maybe I simply got unlucky." Her expression hardened. "Either way, I want the truth known. I regret nothing. Victor Carter deserved to die for what he did to me. And if I had the chance to do it all over again, I would." The video ended. Elara sat in stunned silence. Even after everything, after the trial, the conviction, the life sentence, Diane still felt no remorse. She'd destroyed lives, murdered good people, torn a family apart. And she regretted nothing. It should have made Elara angry. Instead, she felt something else. Pity. Because Diane had spent 18 years consumed by bitterness and revenge. She'd poisoned her own life, destroyed any chance at peace or happiness, all because she couldn't let go of her ego. Victor Carter hadn't destroyed Diane Rothman. Diane Rothman had destroyed herself. And that, Elara realized, was the saddest thing of all. She deleted the video. She didn't need it. Didn't need to keep that toxicity in her life. Diane was in prison. Victor and Catherine were at peace. And Elara had a future to build. That was enough. The day before she and Sebastian left for a long-overdue vacation in Bali, Elara did one final thing. She visited her parents' graves. It was the first time she'd been there since the funeral. She'd been too raw, too broken, too angry at the world. But now, standing in front of the twin headstones in the quiet cemetery, she felt ready. Hi, Dad. Her voice was soft. Sorry it took me so long to visit. I've been busy. She knelt on the grass. Diane, Anna, and Christoph are all in prison. Justice was served. The company is thriving. And I'm engaged to Sebastian. I think you'd approve. He's brilliant and kind and he makes me laugh. You would have loved him. The wind rustled through the trees. I found Mom's letter. The one she left for me at the house. Elara's voice cracked. Thank you. For choosing me. For loving me even when I was difficult and broken and didn't know how to accept love. For giving me a family and a home and a future. She wiped her eyes. I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to build something amazing with Carter Crown. Something that honors your legacy but also creates something new. And I'm going to make sure that other kids like me, kids who feel unwanted and alone, know that they can be chosen too. She placed flowers on each headstone. I miss you. Every single day. But I'm okay now. Actually, I'm more than okay. I'm happy. And I'm strong. And I'm exactly who you raised me to be. Elara stood, brushing off her pants. Rest easy. I've got this. As she walked back to the car where Sebastian was waiting, she felt lighter than she had in months. The war was over. The truth had won. And she was finally, truly free. 6 months later, Elara stood on a beach in Bali, her toes buried in white sand, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. She barely recognized the woman she'd been half a year ago, that grief-stricken, terrified girl who'd inherited an empire and nearly lost everything. You're thinking too much, Sebastian said, coming up behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. I can see it from here. Elara leaned back against his chest. I'm thinking about how different everything is now. Good different or bad different? Good. She turned in his arms. Definitely good. It had taken 6 months to rebuild what Diane and the Wolves had tried to destroy, but they'd done it. Diane was serving 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder and corporate espionage. Anna and Christoph had both been sentenced to life without parole. The evidence had been overwhelming and the trials, though painful, had brought a sense of justice that Elara desperately needed. Cooper had been cleared of any wrongdoing. The dirty cop in his department had been arrested, and Cooper himself had received a commendation for his work on the case. And Carter Crown? It was thriving. Elara had implemented every innovation she dreamed of. The Sustainability Initiative had won industry awards. The Southeast Asia expansion was exceeding projections. And the Carter Foundation had helped over 500 foster children find permanent homes in just 6 months. The company her parents built was stronger than ever. But more than that, Elara was stronger than ever. I got an email from Gail yesterday, she said, lacing her fingers through Sebastian's. He's enrolled in business school. Columbia. He wants to work in hospitality. Sebastian smiled. Following in his sister's footsteps? Apparently. Elara's heart warmed at the thought. I told him he could intern at Carter Crown next summer. If he wants. You're building a real relationship with him. I am. It had been slow, cautious, neither of them quite sure how to be siblings after everything they'd been through. But Gale had proven himself over and over. His testimony had been crucial in convicting Anna and Christoph. And more than that, he'd chosen truth over family loyalty. That meant something. He's good people, Elara said softly. Despite everything he came from, despite Anna and Christoph, he chose to be good. Like someone else I know. Sebastian kissed her temple. Speaking of good people, Mia wants to know when we're coming back. Something about the Tokyo hotel opening. 2 more days. Elara groaned. Can't I have just 2 more days of being a normal person instead of a xiao? You're never going to be a normal person, Elara Quinn Carter. Sebastian's eyes gleamed with mischief. You're too extraordinary for that. Smooth talker. It's part of my charm. They stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the ocean into liquid gold. This trip, the week Sebastian had promised that had turned into 3, had been exactly what Elara needed. Time to grieve properly. Time to heal. Time to remember who she was beyond the titles and the responsibilities. Time to fall even more deeply in love with the man who'd stood beside her through hell. I have something for you, Sebastian said suddenly. If it's another fruit basket from the hotel, I'm leaving you here. It's not a fruit basket. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Elara's breath caught. Sebastian. Before you panic, let me say something. He took her hands. I know we've only been together for 6 months. I know we've been through a trauma that would break most relationships. I know that moving too fast is probably a terrible idea. But Elara's heart was racing. But I've loved you for over a year. I've watched you grow from Victor's daughter into one of the most formidable CEOs I've ever seen. I've seen you at your worst and your best, and Elara, I want all of it. Every board meeting, every crisis, every moment of joy and grief, and everything in between. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, with a sapphire the exact blue of her mother's favorite dress. This was Catherine's, Sebastian said quietly. She left it with me 2 years ago. Said that if I ever found someone worth keeping, I should give them this. And she made me promise that if anything ever happened to her, I'd make sure you knew how much she loved you. Elara's eyes filled with tears. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow, Sebastian continued. I'm not asking you to plan a wedding or change anything about your life. I'm just asking you to know that I'm all in. Forever. Whenever you're ready. Sebastian Brand. Elara laughed through her tears. Are you giving me a promise ring? I'm giving you a, when you're ready to say yes, I'll be here, ring. He smiled. Is that better? It's perfect. Elara held out her hand. Put it on. He did, and it fit like it had been made for her. For the record, Elara said, pulling him close, I'm already ready. I'd marry you tomorrow if we could figure out the logistics. Sebastian's eyes went wide. Are you serious? Completely. You've seen me at my absolute worst. You've fought beside me, protected me, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She kissed him softly. You're my partner in every way that matters. Why would I wait? Because you're 23 and a CEO and you have time to... I'm 23 and a CEO who knows exactly what she wants. Elara grinned. So yes, Sebastian. I'll marry you. Whenever, wherever, however you want. Sebastian laughed, the sound full of joy and disbelief. Then he picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. When he set her down, he kissed her deeply. Your mother would have loved this. She would have demanded to plan the whole thing, Elara corrected. And my father would have cried through the entire ceremony. I'm absolutely going to cry through the ceremony. But I expect nothing less. They stood on that beach as the stars came out, 2 people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and chosen to build something beautiful from the ashes. So here's my final question for all of you amazing people who've been on this journey with Elara. Do you believe in second chances? Do you believe that even when everything falls apart, you can rebuild something better? Because that's what this story is really about, not just fighting for what's yours, but becoming who you're meant to be in the process. Drop your thoughts in the comments one last time. And if this story meant something to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know. 3 months later, Elara stood in the gardens of the Carter estate in the Hamptons. It was a small wedding, Just 50 people, mostly family and close friends. Mia as maid of honor. Gail walking Elara down the aisle since her father couldn't. Nathan officiating because he'd refused to let anyone else do it. The ceremony was simple and perfect. When Sebastian said, "I do," his voice cracked with emotion. When Elara said, "I do," she felt her parents watching, proud and happy. And when they kissed as husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. But the best moment came at the reception, when Elara stood to give a toast. "A year ago, I lost my parents," she began. "I lost the two people who'd loved me, raised me, made me who I am. And I thought that loss would destroy me, that I'd never be whole again." She looked around at the faces watching her, Mia, Nathan, Gail, the board members who'd stood by her, the employees who'd believed in her. But I was wrong. Because they didn't just leave me grief. They left me a legacy. Not just Carter Crown, but something bigger. The belief that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's showing up for each other, fighting for each other, choosing each other every single day. Her eyes found Sebastian's. "My parents chose me when I was a scared little girl who needed a home. They chose to love me, protect me, prepare me for this moment. And now I get to choose too. I choose to honor their memory by building something extraordinary. I choose to keep fighting for what's right. And I choose to spend my life with someone who sees all of me and loves me anyway." Sebastian was definitely crying now. "So here's to choice," Elara raised her glass. "Here's to family. Here's to Victor and Catherine Carter, who taught me that the greatest legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's who you become in the process of building it." To Victor and Catherine, the crowd echoed. Elara caught Mia's eye across the room and saw tears streaming down her face. She saw Gail smiling, finally free from the shadow of the family that had tried to use him. She saw the future stretching out before her, full of challenges and triumphs, of board meetings and innovations, of building an empire with a conscience. And she saw Sebastian, her partner in all of it, looking at her like she hung the moon. The band started playing. Sebastian held out his hand. "Dance with me, Mrs. Brand?" Elara took it without hesitation. "I thought I was keeping my name?" "You are. But I'm allowed to try it out." He pulled her close. "How does it sound?" "Like home," Elara said softly. And as they swayed to the music under the stars, in the gardens where she'd played as a child, surrounded by people who'd fought beside her and loved her through the fire, Elara finally understood what her father had meant in that video. Fight for what's yours. Not just the company or the money or the title, but the life you choose to build. The person you choose to become. The family you choose to create. That was the real inheritance. That was worth fighting for. 1 year later, Elara stood in front of the newest Carter Crown property, the eco-resort in Costa Rica that had been her first major project as CEO. It was stunning. Sustainable luxury that gave back to the local community, employed indigenous workers, and set new industry standards. Her parents would have loved it. "Ready?" Sebastian asked, handing her the scissors for the ribbon cutting. "Ready." The cameras flashed as she cut the ribbon, officially opening the resort to the world. But the real moment came afterward, when she walked through the property with Sebastian and saw what they'd built together. A legacy that honored the past while building the future. A company that made a difference. A life worth living. "What are you thinking?" Sebastian asked. Elara smiled. "I'm thinking that a year ago, I was drowning. And now I'm here. Building something beautiful." "You were always whole," Sebastian corrected. "You just needed time to see it." "Maybe." Elara laced her fingers through his. "But I'm glad you were there to remind me." Her phone buzzed. A text from Gail. "Just got my final grades. 4.0 GPA. Think you can find room for me at Carter Crown after graduation?" Elara smiled and typed back. "Already got your office picked out. Welcome to the family business, little brother." Because that was the thing about family. It wasn't about who you came from. It was about who you chose. Who chose you back. And who stood beside you when the world tried to tear you apart. Elara had lost the family that gave her life. But she'd found the family she was meant to have all along. And that, she thought as Sebastian pulled her close and kissed her under the Costa Rican sun, was the greatest fortune of all. Thank you for going on this journey with Elara. From abandoned child to orphaned heiress to CEO and wife, she fought for what was hers and became exactly who she was meant to be. If this story touched you, moved you, or reminded you of your own strength, please share it. And remember, you're not defined by what happens to you. You're defined by what you choose to do next. Keep fighting, beautiful souls. Your story isn't over yet. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? There are so many more stories coming that will grab your heart and not let go. Hit that button and join the family. See you in the next one.